fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got everything outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up top!
Oh my god! Oh. Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go! Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?
Good evening and welcome back to SimSpeed TV. It's a Thursday night, I should say, and after a small delay, thanks to good old iRacing maintenance, we're back with the simrigs.com Oz Pro-Am Sim Series 6th season and round number 7. It's coming into the crunch time with just 3 rounds to go, including tonight's racing. And we're here at one of America's iconic endurance and IndyCar circuits. It's Road America up in Wisconsin at Elkhart Lake. My name is Daniel Yeaman. I've got David Haynes alongside me in the commentary box and Jay Kennedy on production once again. Well, David, good to have you back for this next round of the Oz Pro-Am. And, well, Pass 2 as always coming up first here in a couple of minutes' time, and set to be another good one here with our sprint format of racing. 2 races in the Pro-Am and 1 race in Pass 2 tonight.
Yeah, plenty of racing for us coming up. And of course, Monza through the forests is the temple of speed in Italy. This is America's natural park of speed. Very similar in many ways. Not a couple more corners than Monza, a couple more cheese bridges than Monza, though I'm sure there's plenty of Italians that would love a cheese bridge or 2. It's similar in a way. A lot of high-speed running through the forest, some challenging corners, slipstreaming key, high-speed corners relatively key as well.
Absolutely indeed. There's going to be a lot of places to talk about tonight when it comes to setting up a lap around this circuit. Well, they call it 14 turns, but as you can see there, good old Marshall posts and corner numbering system in America is a little bit of a pain in the butt. So
inflation is a hell of a thing right now.
Apparently so indeed. That's a good way to put it. So we'll be keeping our eyes on things out there, but probably get the corner numbers all kinds of wrong tonight as a result. So we'll have to try and check ourselves as we go along here. But whilst we're in the middle of qualifying day, let's have a run through the championship settings here in Pass 2. Matt Andrews has been out front when it comes to the points all season long, but starting to get really challenged by Simon Cox in his Mercedes-Benz, who's been putting in good results quite consistently of late. And, well, the gap now just down to a hair under 40 points, with Chad Lewis not too far behind in 3rd place there as well, so could definitely spoil a surprise. And Mark Foster even there in P4, just over 100 points back off of Andrews for the championship lead. Those 4 guys, I reckon they're the ones to start having a look at here in the final rounds of the season, David. And then down beyond that, when you're looking at Chester Lamb in P5, he's got Brady Buchanan, pardon me, goodness, likely to challenge, I would think, for P6. And then you're looking at Owen Coleman and Ben Pollock, Jason Muscat and John Nicoleff. They're all going to be fighting over positions 7 through 10, I would dare suggest, looking at this stage of the championship here.
Yep, pretty close up top, pretty close all the way through for some of those smaller minor battles as well. Interesting to watch. And of course, you know about this rolling balance of performance round to round. A few little changes to this round.
Absolutely indeed. Well, if you don't know how it works, it's based off of the average of the top 3 results scored by drivers across the Pro-Am and Pass 2. And if you're in the one of the top 2 performing cars based on the average, you'll take a small penalty to engine power. And if you're in one of the cars that is bottom 2 performers, you'll get a small boost to your engine power. As you see there, Porsche and BMW taking a small 1% loss tonight, and the McLaren getting back 1% engine power to get it close to a full spec fit once again. So just trying to play the numbers here as the game stands. So I'll be curious to see if that makes much of a difference, but I get the feeling probably not. As we jump into the live footage now, you can see there, not long left on the clock, 1 minute 15, but these guys will get a chance to complete the lap they're on if they choose to commit. Justin Lamb, on the other hand, David, is opting to pull that car over, and that'll be his qualifying session done for tonight.
So who is out there who could be improving through this qualifying session with just minutes left? Simon Cox might. Hendrik Kritzinger here in one of the BMWs. Slightly less power to it this round, but it is minor adjustments just to keep everything within balance. The number 3 car, oh no, probably not going to find any improvement on that lap.
No, probably not, but you're saying there, Simon Cox, here he comes around the final turn here. Has got 1 time on the board, and that 1 time is good enough for provisional pole here. So what does number 64 Mercedes have for us across the line? This time we'll have a chance to go again. And in fact, he's improved into the 203s. He's going to open the gap up from nearly 2/10 to over half a second, David. And that Mercedes, and in the hands of Simon Cox, is really making a mark here in pass 2 once again, putting on a fantastic bit of pace in qualifying. Jamie Blackman there in the number 12. I believe he'll be the last car across the line before the checkered flag flies. By the skin of his teeth, David, but he gets there. And he's very lucky indeed, because that lap didn't count. So he'll get one more chance. Simon Dwyer, the first to come across the line, and his session will be done there. Unfortunately, not able to improve out of position 25 for him, though.
Yeah, and a big lap here at Road America too. So in a 10-minute qualifying session, you know, you can get out there and you can go flying, but you're only going to stick a couple of times to the board. Embarrassing, but it's bigger than Bathurst around here. 6.4 kilometers plays 6.2 for Mount Panorama Circuit. So there is a lot of meterage out in the forest here at Road America. We are doing over 2-minute laps, and there is a handful of places where pushing a bit wide could invalidate or spoil your lap too.
Oh, absolutely. Track limits will be an important thing. Well, was an important thing for these guys here in qualifying. We see here Chad Lewis not too aggressive there off the final corner and opts to bring the car down the pit lane. So that is his session done. A 204.6 is going to be good enough for P3 here. Don't think any of the drivers behind are going to suddenly close up, because the next car on track is Adam Jepson, and Jepson is currently sitting 11th place in his number 525 Porsche. But next across the line, we might also have a look at him, Reese Ashmore, the number 918 Ferrari, currently P20 on a 206.5. 1 lap on the board here. Can he improve with this 3rd and final lap? Up the hill we come. Fight the drag. Push the power down, and unfortunately it's been an invalidated lap there, David, so no improvement for the 918. He's followed across the line by Hendrik Krasinga, who does get a small improvement and brings the number 3 BMW up to P12. Jepson, the next to come across the line here in a moment. Let's see what he can do. He's got a couple of personal bests, but has lost a bit of time here towards the end of the lap, it seems.
Key places for track limits enforcement, I'd say, is turn 5, left-hander at the bottom of a very difficult braking zone. You get a bit too wide off that final corner. And I'd also think that kink on the back straight heading down towards Canada corner, you can push a little wide there if you're not careful as well.
Well, good improvement there from Jepson, up half a second. That's going to see him jump inside the top 10 and bring the 525 Porsche to 9th place at 205.24. He's a fair way off the race leader, well, qualifying leader, I should say, pardon me, but I think he'll be quite happy with that qualifying result for now. So let's take ourselves to the grid here, David, because it's time to run us through our starting lineup for pass 2. 25 minutes will be on the clock, but nevertheless, Simon Cox gets the pole position tonight and that half-second gap back to P2. Jeffrey Wang will be lining up alongside him in the number 26, Ferrari versus Mercedes on that front row. And then it's copied on row number 2. Chad Lewis will be on the inside with the number 27 in the Mercedes, and has Jason Muscat alongside him in the number 46, another Ferrari there. Ben Jeffrey finally breaks up the Mercedes-Ferrari party here with a Porsche 911 out of P5 in the 150 machine there. He'll be starting alongside, though, another Ferrari, so it's 3 Ferraris, all on the even side of the rows here, down to 6th place with the number 77 of Stuart Brown there. He's followed by Owen Coleman out of P7, another one of our Ferraris tonight, with Mark Foster alongside him in the number 500 BMW. First of the M4s there tonight. Then Adam Jepson, who just saw there at the end of qualifying. The next of our Porsches, the 525, will be out of position number 9 tonight, alongside Dylan Cantor in the number 25, another one of the BMW M4 GT3s. And that's an all-Ferrari row number 6. John Nicoleff out of P11 in the number 73, starting alongside Jamie Blackman in the number 12.
Then we saw Hendrik Kritzinger put that time to the board and shares row 7 with Anthony Connors. We've got Aaron Maguire, Chester Lamb, Matt Hardigan, Hilton Booth in the appropriately numbered Ferrari there on row 9. In 19th, Tony Baker, Reese Ashmore, Nick Holmes, Jesse White-Carrig, Troy Mortensen, Paul Longworth. Grid continues with Simon Dwyer, No Time for Clinton Bailey, Greg Sholton, Shane Nowens or Terry Knowles. I'd say this is a pretty popular track.
Yep, 29 cars, and this is just the first, well, the sort of the feeder category, if you will, here for the Oz Pro-Am Sim Series, David. So we certainly have got ourselves a race on our hands tonight. I have to say, I kind of skipped over it, but Jamie Blackman, the number 12 Ferrari, also starting in 12th place. Just the power of 12 tonight might be compelling for Blackman. We'll have to wait and see what his race looks like. Well, everyone's on the grid, so I do believe we'll see this field begin to pace away here in a moment, which is good, because
6,400 meters of that pacing.
Yep, a full pace lap here at Road America. In fact, just ahead to the touch over 6.44 kilometers apparently. Now, actually fascinating is that in-game I'm seeing 6.44 as the track length, but I have the UI next to me for the good old track map that we can have a look at, or at least I can. And according to the UI, the configuration length is 6.51. So, yeah, look, guess we'll have to I'll have to go check at some point which is the more accurate stat. But given you ran off the 6.4 kilometer number, I'm going to hesitate to guess it's the one in the sim, not the one over in the UI at this stage.
I'm going to ask racingcircuits.info, and if that's a third totally different number, we're in trouble.
Well, I'll give you Wikipedia for starters. The answer according to Wikipedia is 6.51 for your standard Grand Prix / road course layout. So, interesting there. We've got just these little things that I like to spot every now and again.
I got 651 on racingcircuits.info as well, so...
So, dear iRacing.com, please update your in-game facts about your course, because you got the information correct elsewhere, but you haven't got it right in-game.
Shortchanging us by 50 meters or so. 60 meters, whoa.
Yeah, I know, it's devastating. A loss of so much circuit. Maybe they, yes, maybe they, because we do have the alternate bend configuration that does exist, that I'm sure no one ever actually uses here at Road America, given that it would add a very interesting little chicane off the exit of the carousel, and that would proceed to, well...
Champ Car Endurance Series ran that kink chicane at least at one point.
Well, consider me educated then. I used to love the Champ Car series, and yet I didn't really recognise that fact, but I'm going to blame it on the fact that Champ Car was when I was about 8 or 9 years old, and my memory doesn't necessarily serve me well about small tidbits from the past from time to time. So you hear the field come through Hurry Downs, one of our, well, fairly important corner here, David, in terms of being able to set up a potential move here at turn number 8, where the leaders are coming through just now behind the safety car. And then the ever-famous carousel. Counted as a double apex, apparently, but, well, got plenty of options in how you take the corner. Do you go in tight and hold the inside all the way around? Do you swing the car out early and then try and properly double apex the corner so that you get 2 bites at the cherry? Do you start out wide and go for 1 late apex? So many options there. And depending on the way you can get the car to rotate, that will dictate which is the better line for you. And I think I'll be curious to see how that plays out tonight, both here in Pass 2 and later on in the Pro-Am, as to who can make it work the best. And then through that kink there on the back straight, should be flat out for these cars if they can get the preferred line, start all the way out on the left and swing it back into the left. And then, oh no, a spin on the pace lap, David!
Paul Longworth's around and he's found the barrier. What on earth has happened there?
Well, I saw his car was out near the grass, but yeah, that's, well, I'll put that one down in the history books for things you wish didn't happen on your pace lap. And Longworth is doing about a 6-point turn, it would seem, to recover his number 2 Ferrari. He's got it facing the right direction now, but he's going to have to hustle if he wants a chance to get back to the field. So a virtual racing school replay before the green flag even flies. I think it's just Cassie. Look at this. Oh no, actually, never mind. Okay, so BMW number looks like it's the 303 of Greg Scholten's, just given a very unexpected hip check there. As the leaders come around the final corner, we've got to wait for the pace car to pull off and for the green flag to come to us here. So waiting for that green flag is Simon Cox, as they're pacing at about 80 kilometers an hour up the hill. They await the signal from the flag at the top of the hill. Get ready for Pass 2 here, folks, because it's time to get the action underway any second now. And waiting. And there it is. Green flag flies and we're underway here, David. 25 minutes is go.
Good start from your pole sitter. caught a little bit napping might have been Jason Muscat in the Ferrari there.
Here we go, down to turn 1. Side by side for a majority of the cars. Cox is out in front by himself for now, and they're starting to get into single file. So there we go. Chad Lewis looking to pressure for P2 there. Jeffrey Wang holds on, though, for the time being. Jamie Blackman in the number 12 Ferrari, though, is in the inside of turn 3. Unfortunately missed exactly what happened to him, but he's trying to recover the car. Unfortunately, not able to get it back on track the way he wants. On board, though, here with Jason Muscat, the number 46. Started 4th and looking in now pressure for 3rd place. Under brakes here at turn 5 for the first time and gets that car pulled up nicely, David. So there's a spot shift, but Chad Lewis looks for the over-under on corner exit. He's thinking about it here under the bridge. Meanwhile, trouble back at the exit of turn 5. We've got drivers around. And it's the 525, sorry, of Adam Jepson there, who's come off worse. And then there's more trouble. Jesse White-Carrigan, the 777, at turn number 6. Just beforehand, that car has gone around. He's got the car off track and able to get it turned around there, but that's a slow and painful start for a couple of guys here and now. With a track like this, with the draft being super critical, they're going to now lose that advantage here on lap number 1. They're going to be a long race back for some of these guys here, and we're just getting underway.
Such a big braking zone there at turn number 5. You run a long way down the straight carrying a lot of speed, and then it's downhill to elongate your braking zone into a pretty tight corner. Take a look
here.
First of all at Blackman, I think, who turns in just tyres on the grass.
Yep, he did. Just the tiniest a bit of tyre on the left side, grabbing that outside grass, and then thankfully Blackman there, very patient and willing to keep that car. Oh, just saying that. Blackman's had trouble. Yeah, he's gone around at the kink, and there's a BMW in the fence. Oh,
on
Greg Schulten. Yeah,
in the fence now.
Greg Schulten is giving ourselves a fantastic wall grind there, and unfortunately, that's his race going to be done here. As we see our race leaders, though, down to turn number 1 we go. Simon Cox having to defend from Jeffrey Wang, and is able to make it work here for now, but clearly slipstream is going to be crucial. You can certainly put together a fantastic qualifying lap, but now we're in the race session, and I don't think Cox here has the ultimate pace to break away from Jeffrey. Not at this stage, at least. So Ferrari Mercedes looking pretty well balanced against each other with these two guys in particular for now. Chad Lewis has gotten back up into 3rd place after the switchback after turns 5 and 6 there on lap 1. Jason Muscat is actually coming under a little bit of pressure now from Stuart Brown, who's up a spot in the number 77 Ferrari, just out of shot below the image. See here, up the hill to turn 6, David, and looking a little bit further back here, first of our BMWs, pardon me, not BMWs, Porsches. It's Ben Jeffrey in the number 150. He's looking to pressure Owen Coleman's going to have to take a quick look at another virtual racing school replay here. Looking at what's happened to Greg Schulten, and oh dear, cars, tyre smoke. Oh dear, so there's Blackman in the Ferrari, and then unknown Lamborghini, and hello, barrel roll, up and into the catch fence, and probably one of the more interesting landing spots I would suggest for a BMW M4 GT3. And the immovable Armco says, "I've got you, son."
Straight into the catcher's glove. And that one, catch fence indeed it was. So it happens so easily there. Cars can get unsettled through the kink, and then the walls are close on both sides. Cars can sort of ping pong back and forth back onto the track. Anyone who's cut enough laps around here has been in an incident like that at some point.
You've either been in one, you've seen enough of them to know how to avoid it if it goes horrendous wrong, or you just you cross your fingers and you basically pray to get through it unscathed, as that can certainly be the case in some situations. Having a look here at Hilton Booth, the only 488 Ferrari GT3, I suppose you could call it, if we wanted to play games. He's currently in a Porsche sandwich, though, the number 421 of Aaron Maguire ahead of him, and he's closely followed behind by Matt Hardigan in the 999. So, why don't you say that? Hilton Booth there, a little bit further up, trying to pressure Maguire, but nothing coming that time by. As we look here at the battle for 10th place, Anthony Connors in the number 14, switched to the Audi R8 tonight, using his approved car change this evening. He's now got Chester Lamb, Hendrik Krasinga, and John Nikolaev all close behind him, but there we go. Lamb and Krasinga going at it side by side down to turn 5, but Krasinga doesn't look to have the straight line run here. Maybe that small power loss for the BMW hurting, but he Back in the slipstream there, Dave. He's going to pull out to the inside once more. Contact, though, at the apex. Oh, Chester Lamb around, and he's now parked. Meanwhile, trouble for P3, or formerly P3, Chad Lewis. Back down to 7th place, and that car is looking a little bit scuffed at the front, I think.
Yeah, Simon Cox, Jeffrey Wang now getting away in the lead, and the front right is not right on the 27 Mercedes.
I wonder what happened there, given he was running comfortably. P3, there you go.
Oh,
Going to get these side by side with the replay. So turn 5 wasn't the issue. So turn 6 up and over the hill. And yep, in a bit too hot. Rear end can't slow itself down in time. Thankfully, the car slides off of the racing line. And we're able to see everyone else get back to it without much of a fuss. Look here now. The battle for third is 2 Ferraris. Jason Muscat with Stuart Brown continuing to stay close and put the pressure on as they make their way up the hill out of Canada corner here. 3 laps down. They've probably got 2 more laps in the tank as these cars start with 20 litres of fuel, fixed setup series. And their fuel tank capacity tonight is 37%, which for the Ferraris here, it's just under about 37.5 litres. For the BMW, the Audi, the Lamborghini, Mercedes, the Porsche, that's 38.1 for them tonight. We're expecting 12, maybe 13 laps, depending on how the average race pace checks out for these guys. So that will be a one-stopper once they and should be able to basically fill the car up more or less to full and then bring it home from there. We'll have to wait and see, though, who gambles on refilling the absolute minimum tonight to try and get themselves a bit of track position. I'll be very curious to see if that works. And speaking of pit stops, Chester Lamb, Paul Longworth, first 2 cars down onto the lane. But Longworth sporting some serious damage, and Chester Lamb, yeah, just trying to, I think, cut his losses early here. Is back on live pitches, and that's Chad Lewis now having to really fend off Owen Coleman. That Ferrari in the slipstream is having a really good job, but trouble back at turn 6. Ben Jeffries around, it's caught up Hendrik Kazinga, it's caught up another one of the Ferraris there. I think that's, yeah, Reese Ashmore's gotten entangled by no fault of his own and arriving on the accident scene later there. And the 150 of Ben Jeffrey has said, unfortunately, that's his race more or less done here. So another car basically not retiring explicitly, of course, because they can tow back out onto the circuit. But, oh dear, Ben Jeffrey there on replay shot, and his car turns into a bit of a pancake, spinning around, and oh no, that's a bit clumsy there. Rejoining straight onto the apex of turn 5, and then several cars as a result getting entangled as they just try and come through the corner and not able to spot the stricken car in time to make evasive manoeuvres.
Some of your leaders of the pit lane then, first and second.
Oh, of course. They're going to be a little bit tight because they've had a full pace lap. Yes, they won't have burned as much, but I was able to do 5 flying laps in a little bit of practice earlier on today, but these guys all into the lane here at the end of lap number 4, so no one's gambling on being able to make it a 5th lap here tonight. So here they all come, but there we go. The first person to say, I will do 5 laps at the start of this race, Aaron Maguire in the 421. Keeps his car out on track, and he will take the race lead if temporarily. Be curious to see, though, what are our pit stop times like for our race leaders. Should more or less be a filling of the tank from these guys. They might be able to save a lap here. We'll have to wait and see. Clock continues to tick up for the leaders. Past 13 seconds. 14.5 for Simon Cox, and he's away. He beats Jeffrey Wang by nearly a 1.5 seconds there on the pit lane stationary time. So that's a decent win for the former race leader. Had control of it, David, from the start, but Jeffrey was keeping him honest, and now that gap's opened up. It should give Simon a chance to break away and get out of slipstream range here.
Very, very few drivers continuing without having pitted on that lap or earlier, and it's Aaron Maguire, Matt Hardigan in those Porsches, but also Terry Knowles in a Ferrari. So we'll see if that's an intentional strategy or a mistake. The Porsches did seem to do pretty well when driven well with regards to fuel consumption at Watkins Glen, wasn't it?
Yes, indeed it was.
Oh, yep. Saw Terry Knowles. So it's all Porsches carrying on.
And it's a Porsche 1, 2, 3. up front for the time being, but there's your effective race leader just in the background of shots. So unfortunately, Terry doing what he can here to press on, but will obviously be absorbed by the pack here shortly enough when he comes down the lane. So we have a look. There's another car there in the middle of the field, the number 78 of Shane Newlands, who is indeed on screen with us now in the BMW M4 GT3. Unfortunately, he too is also yet to stop, and he's currently buried down in P12, David. So bit of a rough outing for him. And in fact, actually, interestingly, that car sports decals from another special event hosted series that was here on SimSpeed earlier this year.
There you have it. Simon Cox has already worked his way around Terry Knowles for third outright. Still holding on to that effective race lead. Oh, no.
Oh, he's gambled and gambled poorly. The 421 and the 999 made it work, but the 678 Porsche has coughed its last out of Canada corner. He's anything off the racing line, but now has to tow that short distance back to pit lane, and that's going to hurt all the more as Simon Cox in the number 64 Mercedes retakes the race lead. You see our two Porsches there in the middle of the lane, having made it round to end of lap number 5. Get their cars filled up and get ready to race on to the end here. 13.5 minutes on the clock. Not far off half race distance going off of the time, at least here, David. So looking here at being probably a 13-lap race based on where they'll be when the timer goes halfway at this stage.
Yeah, interesting battles here. Dylan Canto up in 4th, just in front of the Mercedes. Plus 6 places so far in this race, and Chad Lewis is being sized up by Stuart Brown down towards the important turn 5 braking zone.
There we go, under brakes, side by side between Lewis and Brown. Brown has to go to the outside at turn 5. Not something you see too often, and at least not work very often, but as a result, no changes made indeed. Quite interesting to see that. Jason Muscat up the road is still P3. Stuart Brown has had a bit of an average in-lap and pit stop, despite the times looking okay for what I'm seeing here. So I'm a bit confused, David, because he was up there behind the number 46, and all of a sudden, in the course of a lap, has lost 2 spots to where he was, and a good chunk of about 4, maybe 5 seconds here. So yeah, that in-lap, 2-minute 41.0. If I compare that to the race leader, yeah, in fact, that's the answer. It's entirely on the in-lap and the pit entry approach, because he lost a good 3-4 seconds to everyone else ahead of him there.
I think that might be the outlap number, but still, there's been somewhere in the pit stops 3 or 4 seconds lost.
That's a good
by
point, yes.
Stuart Brown, and it's not the stationary time from what I can tell. Maybe stall it, trying to leave the pit box. Can only speculate, but it's dropped back behind Dylan Canto and Chad Lewis. BMW, does seem to be struggling with the straight line performance, but overall doesn't seem like a bad car to be racing. So Canto under pressure here, but the race pace is good if he just doesn't lose his head in this battle.
Yeah, we'll have to see here. Side by side into turn number 1. Chad Lewis this time going around the outside. He's almost made it work. In fact, make it work all the way. Gets the job done, and now puts Stuart Brown on the tail of the number 25 BMW there. Brown, though, not able to get the rotation, and that Ferrari traction control bites on corner exit. And so here we go now. This is 4th on back. We've now got ourselves 5 cars in the picture here. So, indeed, that BMW, I actually did a bit of practice this week to get a feel for what car, if hypothetically I was ever to race in the Oz Pro-Am. But, well, here I am in the commentary box. It's a bit of a null question, but just with the current GT3 physics and changes that they made at the start of the season, definitely felt the most comfortable jumping in the BMW and trying to get up to speed. That was quite a bit faster in the BMW than anything else that I touched, with about 5 laps of experience in each car on the setups provided tonight. But yeah, that engine power does certainly seem to be hurting that car when it comes to being able to defend a position without slipstream. And given how many long straightaway sections there are here, and I mean you count at least 3, certainly going to be important. And now Chad Lewis has been given a bit of a break because Dylan Canto had to defend the spot against Stuart Brown down at the turn 3. And they've all fanned out a little bit here. So curious to also see that Mark Foster in the background of shot, the number 500 BMW. He's currently well inside the train here, so this will be a good test, I think, to see how does the BMW perform when it's got slipstream versus what we saw there last lap where the BMW out front was having to do what it could with no assistance. So up the hill we go once again, and end lap number 7 and get lap 8 underway. Here they come, and I reckon, yeah, that number 25 might be a little vulnerable here, but we'll have to wait and see. In fact, never mind that. Look back for position number 7, Mark Foster. Had a decent run off the corner, but just in the slipstream, the Ferrari of Owen Coleman pulls alongside and says, thank you very much, I'll have that, no troubles whatsoever. So
Grazie, ragazzi.
I think there that answers your question, David, about what we're seeing when it comes to engine power and its effects around here tonight. It was in the slipstream of another Ferrari, but Coleman, in the slipstream of the BMW, just pulled around the outside. So, pardon me, up the inside down the front stretch and made that look like a pretty easy piece of work there.
We'll see how the tyres maybe wear on the Ferrari. That can occasionally be their weak spot, but 25 minutes isn't a massively long race for tyre degradation. This is a good battle here. I note that those two Porsches, Maguire and Hardigan, who ran longer, didn't really seem to gain anything from that, at least in the short term. They didn't manage to really overcut any positions, and in fact, Aaron Maguire's back on the pit lane again. What has happened for 421?
Oh, this isn't too good. Damage to the left side of that car. I just saw pop back out, so looks like Maguire's had himself a bit of a rough couple of laps after pitting, and Matt Hardigan in the 999, the other car that went long that extra lap, well, his pit time was 31 seconds, so that's not quite the time you'd get for speeding on the pit lane, but looks like maybe not a miscalculation, because there is only so much fuel you can put in this car, but tyres maybe at his pit stop, which is a very unexpected decision to make in a short sprint race like this. As we have a look at the replay here, thanks to Virtual Racing School, presume it's going to be the 421 of Aaron Maguire, and out of turn number 6, and yep, that's not going to do you any favours, and smash! Left side takes the concrete and bends that thing pretty good.
Yeah, I think he did drive it around to the pit lane, but whole left-hand side, big shunt, big impact, pushed it in all the way around. Again, another BMW struggling down the pit straight as the race goes on. Stuart Brown making another spot potentially.
Well, he's going for it here on Dylan Cantor, but Dylan Cantor's still there on the outside too in the grass through turn 1. He didn't want to give that one up, but he's basically been forced to concede the spot. Owen Coleman jumps on it as well and makes that 2 for 1 in 2 corners. Well, America says 3. I'm going to completely ignore the fact that there's apparently a curve there that counts. So, yeah, there you go. The BMWs in this train are losing out despite having some slipstream here and there. And once again, I had to note, Stuart Brown there, a bit of a rough run through turn 3, as it's called here, and put himself under pressure from Owen Coleman. Up the hill they go, turn 6 this time. Coleman had to think about it. Tap to the rear, though, from Canto, not quite on the line. So again, yeah, that BMW it's a good car, relatively easy to drive, and handles itself pretty nicely there. But you can see here now, these guys really starting to scrap. And again, Brown out of shot, wide through turn 8 this time. He's just opening himself up. Every time he looks like he gets a little breakaway down the straights, gets a good run through the faster corners, but these braking zones, these critical positions where you need to be on point to get the car rotated, stopped, and turned, it's just not coming together for him, and it's just plowing wide and setting himself up to be vulnerable for the next straightaway section. As we see here, draft for Coleman, down to Canada corner we go, lingering tyre smoke, I think. Can't see anything up ahead, though, so these guys are going to be side by side, all clear to keep racing, and Coleman, not able to make it work, has to go the long way around, and Brown just able to keep the car in it enough there to hold on to the spot. And then up over the crest of turn 13. Look at that there, though. Canto is going to try and force the issue here at turn 14. Oh, not quite able to make it work, though. So here comes the run down the front stretch, as that's a car in the pit lane. Terry Knowles, once again, is limping his car back to the pits. So trouble there for another one of our long Porsche that tried to run long, as here comes Coleman on Brown up the inside, down the front straight. It worked last lap around. What does Brown do this time? He tries to pinch Coleman this time. Contact, but I think, oh no, it's gotten Canto involved. Oh, the 25 clips the inside tyre bundles. The 77 around in the dirt on the exit of turn 1. And has to be careful there not to flick out onto the circuit there, David. So, well, watching that one unfold, I think really, unfortunately, that's a bit of a clear-cut case of Brown trying to defend the position a bit too aggressively there. Pays the price and bounces off the car on the inside. We'll have another look at it here on the Vrs Replay and just confirm what I think about that one there into turn 1. And the angle doesn't quite capture it, but I think there's a bit of a pinch. And then, yeah, Canto first on the scene. No time to react. Grazes the tyres, thankfully, think at least. But we'll wait and see if his car has any more substantial damage than just a bit of a rub there.
So thinking about this fuel strategy, one of the shortest fuel stops of anyone was your leader, Simon Cox, and I agreed, around the outside. Just needed to give a couple more centimetres there. Simon Cox had we saw a really good pit stop time, came out of that pit lane with a little bit of a lead. I wonder if he's just having to control the fuel burn a little bit, nurse it a tiny bit here, because the last 3 laps, I think Jeff Wang, who had a longer stop, has been coming back at him.
Interesting to see there. So Jeffrey Wang, good race pace. And indeed, look at that for a lap time difference there. 204.9 versus 205.7 up front. The by the way, that I just made background a shot. That unfortunately was the 303 of Greg Sholton. Spun on the exit of the kink down the back straightaway. Unfortunately, his race has not gone too well there. As our race leader navigates some traffic there. Unfortunately, the 150 Ben Jeffrey now goes a lap down here. And, well, 3 minutes on the clock. We're going to get 2 laps of racing. So it's only going to be a 12-lap affair here. You would think in that case, Cox should have this car filled up pretty nicely to make it home. But, well,
I mean,
I could be wrong.
Seconds shorter than Wang, so this could be just the right amount of fuel for Cox. But Wang can push here, not need to worry so much. And that could be just accounting for a couple of the tenths difference.
Could be, yes. I'm just wondering there. Obviously, Cox has to be the first one through traffic here. If just maybe having to open the door a little bit in a few spots, and that just costs him a couple of those crucial tenths. But then again,
I saw it the other way for the last 2 cars, though.
Indeed, yeah. We saw there more background shot. Jeffrey Wang having to, well, I think more to the fact that was Jeffrey Wang just trying to get every bit of straight line speed he could get out of the traffic and then pulling out onto the racing line at the last possible option before turn number 5 there, and to give himself the most benefit possible. So round the carousel for the second last time, the leader has gone through the kink here, nothing looking out of the ordinary. So indeed, down to Canada corner, gap is at 2.3 seconds. So indeed, yeah, he has blown up this lap. The timing there for Jeffrey Wang has not played well, and looks like Simon here in the race lead is going to pick up his next lap car, which belongs to Jamie Blackman in the number 12. Unfortunately, has not been able to hang on to position 12 tonight to make it 12s all round for that Ferrari, pardon me. So onto the front stretch we come. And in fact, he's already pulled over to the side, but Simon wants to slipstream up the hill. So he's going to take it for as long as he can. White flag in the air at the start-finish line. So 6.5 kilometers of racing to go here. And, well, looks like it's going to be Simon Cox's race to lose as he gets this lap underway here, David.
Exactly. Now we know it's 6,500 metres more.
Here we go. Closest battle inside the top 10. Dylan Cantor looking to recover after that incident there. And now trying to get past fellow BMW driver Mark Foster. A little bit of damage on the 25, but it looks like it's not affecting that car too much. Gets the move done at turn 1, but what's Foster got for him down the run to turn 5? He's certainly in position. If he can get a good drive off the corner, but that's a little wide of the apex mark. Holds together, though, I think, David. So it's going to have to be a bit of a send, I think, under brakes, but should start feeling the benefits here. Indeed, watch him close in now as they pick up speed. Up past 250 kph, approaching 260 in the braking zone. Cantor defends to the inside. Oh dear, Foster very wide there. In fact, that can't have been to plan there.
He high-sided it on that outside curb. I mean, you can get out there a little bit to open up your entry.
Oh, Cantor's done himself. Spins it at turn 6. He does exactly what we saw to Chad Lewis earlier in the race. Grabs the grass on the exit of the apex, and oh boy, I hope Anthony Connell gets through okay. He does, thankfully. But another look at that one there on the virtual racing score replay, David. And yeah, just he had the move done, and he's just pushed that tiniest bit too hard. That's mere pixels on the right rear, and it's all she wrote for the 25 there. Has dropped to the back end of the top 10, so that's a bit painful. Possibility to get spots here. Now our closest fight here inside the 10. It's Hilton Booth up 10 spots to 8th, trying to fend off John Nicolev. So Ferrari v Ferrari. Once again, looks like we're getting ourselves a bit of a manufacturer's battles to have a look at in a moment's time. But back to the front of the field because it's been uncontested since the pit stop, David. Simon Cox gets himself another race win here in Pass 2 of the Oz Pro Am Sim Series, and now stakes himself a serious claim on the championship hunt with 2 rounds to go.
The front row from qualifying end up as first and second. Jason Muscat moved forward to then stand on the podium.
Here comes that back end of the top 10. Canto even wider still at the final corner. Holds onto it though, and there goes our biggest mover up the field. Hilton Booth, take a bow there, good sir. Up 10 spots to finish yourself 8th place. Another 8 for the 488. And, well, maybe 8 is the lucky number. And, well, I think there Simon Cox either pulling the car over to come and get ready to chat to us, perhaps, or could have run that car extremely tight on fuel. We'll have to wait and see if we can get a chance to chat with him and see what his fuel strategy was like tonight, I think, David.
Yeah, pretty straightforward one stop, but you think that you don't want to take any more fuel than necessary.
Yes, indeed. Certainly, with a time-certain race, you want to make sure you're right. Yeah, and with a battle that was pretty close there for the most part. Looks like traffic might have shifted things a tiny bit there, but it's very much a part of racing all the same. So here are your results from the Past 2 race. Now, obviously unofficial, given that there will be potential post-race reviews, but Simon Cox first across the line, and a pretty comfy race for him there. He'll have that win all sorted out ahead of Jeffrey Wang in 2nd place there tonight. And Jason Muscat, as you said there, David, picking up a spot there to get himself into position number 3 tonight ahead of Chad Lewis in 4th place. And Owen Coleman there, not quite able to close in on the Mercedes ahead, but 5th place for him will be fairly decent ahead of Mark Foster there, the first of our BMWs in 6th. Anthony Connors able to make advantage there to get P7 tonight ahead of Hilton Booth, who hangs on ahead of John Nicolev for P9, and then Dylan Cantor there, unfortunately, self-inflicted misery to round out the top 10 when he could have been on for 6th place there, David.
Yep, and Stuart Brown, Greg Holmes, Hendrik Gritzinger, Troy Mortensen, Reese Ashmore, Chester Lamb, Adam Jepson, Matt Hardigan with that ambitious strategy. Don't think we really saw any dividends out of that in the top 20s. Paul Longworth and Shane Newens.
And then over the page, Jamie Blackman, unfortunately, 1 lap down there in 21st place, along with Ben Jeffrey in 22nd, Aaron Maguire 23rd, Simon Dyer 24th, Jesse White carried 25th, and Tony Baker 26th place. And then we're into our retirements, I do believe, with Terry Knowles 3 laps down in 27th. Also there, going for that long run at the start and not paying off, unfortunately. Greg Sholton 28th and 4 laps down, and Clinton Bailey not taking the race start. Actually, no, pardon me, got 2 laps in, but unfortunately, that was all he had for us tonight. So we'll have a quick chat to our race winner here from Past 2. Indeed, Simon Cox getting himself another win on the board. Congratulations, Simon, there. Starting from pole, a fantastic qualifying lap to be well clear of the field. Under a bit of pressure perhaps there in the opening stint thanks to the slipstream?
Yeah, it's such a tough track for slipstream, just trying to break it, through the middle sector so you're not going to drag everybody up the main straight and around the back straight and things like that. But it was a good race.
Yeah, definitely looked like he had a good control of it there for the most part, and had a very good pit stop in comparison to Jeffrey behind you there, which gave you a bit of a gap off pit exit. And then it looks like there the traffic, maybe just the way it sort of came at you there, in the end it actually gave you a bit of an advantage, we think, towards the end of that race there in particular.
Yeah, with the pit stop I just underfilled by about a second just to try and get a bit of track position. But the traffic was fine. They're really good. So that didn't hold me up at all. If anything, it sort of helped me save a little bit of fuel in that later stint of the race, and I sort of managed to cross the line with a couple of 100 mil left over, so it was good.
Well, that's what we would call fueling the car to exactly precise measurements. Well, looking at the championship in general here, Simon, I guess, well, importantly, we actually didn't touch on it in the broadcast, but championship leader Matt Andrews a no-show tonight here in the Pass 2 category, so that certainly opens the door for you to be taking the championship lead going into the final 2 rounds here in Pass 2. I guess maybe not quite the start you wanted, but certainly you've turned it around here with some consistently great results in this second half of the season.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it's a bit of a surprise that I'm up there with the championship. I didn't expect that, but you know, like, we've got a really good team, and you know, we don't take ourselves too seriously, but what we do is we really support each other. And a big thank you to Rob Hill. Unfortunately, he hasn't able to race the couple of races because he's an ambulance driver and he can't get off work in time. But this week he actually stopped his holiday short and was able to spot for me via your Twitch stream, so that was great.
Well, props to Rob indeed there. Well, looking forward to Suzuka next week as we we've got 3 rounds to go. I've absolutely completely ditched myself when it comes to the calendar in this series. So 3 races to go. Suzuka up next. I guess any thoughts looking ahead to that round?
Yeah, Suzuka, I love the track. So that should be good. You know, it's another slipstream track. But for me, for the next little bit, I'll just be spotting for Daniel. So hopefully Daniel goes well in the Pro-Am race next.
Indeed. Well, before we let you go, Simon, a chance to thank partners and sponsors who got it done for you tonight.
BMA and BHE Electrical and Skidlit Art, and that's actually Daniel Hill. So if you need a real-life helmet painted, he's the man to go to.
Well, thank you very much for that, Simon, and good luck for the remaining rounds, and also good luck to Daniel there, who we've now got on screen as we're here in the middle of qualifying for the Pro-Am.
Appreciate you guys.
Race winner Simon Cox there. Another win to his tally. David does himself a world of good in the championship, and yeah, quite surprising to not see Matt Andrews, who's been a mainstay at the front of the field in Pass 2, but that shakes things up very much so. Well, now time to have a look at the Pro-Am here, David, and here are our Pro Championship standings, and Jeff Connell, the fuel whisperer in his McLaren MP412C, looks like he's got this one fairly comfortably in front, but well, it's been a bit up and down. There has been a couple of rough rounds along the way, so certainly even with 3 rounds to go, 4 rounds to go for these guys because they haven't raced yet tonight, certainly things could change for them if we have a bad one here at this stage of the championship.
And things will always be hit and miss in that McLaren. Sometimes you find a round format or a circuit that really suits it. And for Jeff Connell, I think that might have been Sonoma, untouchable there, almost very, very good performance. But then you'll occasionally have a track or track conditions where the McLaren can be a lot tougher to drive than some of the more modern, more planted GT3 machinery, like that BMW or like the Porsche or maybe even like the Ferrari. Ross Rizzo's second in the championship here. He's been driving the Lamborghini too. So, yeah, some cars coming up that we maybe didn't see a whole lot of in Pass 2 as well.
Indeed, you have a look at the, well, I was going to say the top 4 for Pro Division are all in different cars. That was McLaren, Lamborghini, Porsche, Ferrari for Jack Wood was third in the championship there. And yeah, and Ferrari P3 and Porsche P4. So for our championship competitors, and P5 goes to a Mercedes AMG. So very much when it comes to drivers having their strengths and weaknesses, certainly would definitely tend to the argument that some cars are better suited to other places, given that look at the table. Well, the other half of Pro-Am is the Am, and here are their championship standings, David, and it's Matthew Johnson in his BMW, the number 11, tonight, as after Sebastian Vandel's promotion, now has a 150-point lead there over Nick Wood for P2, but, well, they've always been near the front of the field in that class, and both in BMWs, so certainly could be on between them, but don't discount Aaron Oliver there in P3. And Del Carpenter, a couple of 200 points back off of P3 at least, but still possibly in with a chance, though maybe he'll have to look back towards P5 and the guys behind to defend his spot in the standings at this stage.
Yeah, I think super close there as well, and we know typically some pretty large grids as well. The difference between having a good round and having a bad round is a lot of points.
Well, let's have a look here at qualifying, and speaking of drivers from the top of the standings, there's someone we haven't quite seen hit a pole lap just yet, but has put it together here at just the right time, I would dare suggest. Lachlan Capel, the number 18 machine for Pulse Racing Team, has got that Porsche up to the front of the field. Not by much, though, because we've got ourselves top 4 inside a 10th. And they're all in different car manufacturers. The number 18 Porsche, number 1 McLaren, number 898 is the Ferrari of Jack Whittis, and then Dennis Gaderick, 190, is in the Mercedes AMG. So GT3 Racing, well, that just about sums up what you like to see when it comes to manufacturer diversity and equal performance on display for the most part. Here's we're currently back out on track. Time ticking down here. Mosma Roz looking to improve on 11th outright, which is also good enough for P2 in class. Unfortunately, not able to improve that lap. In fact, that was a long way off towards the end of that lap, it would seem. His personal best is a 204.0 in the session, so he's got time here to make another run at it. Liam Caplice, on the other hand, bringing that car into the pits. Oh, yes, indeed. My brain's gone and done the spanner. Because this is the Pro-Am and the Sprint format, we have 2 races tonight using the Heat format. So, yes, as I'm reminded by Jay Kennedy on production tonight, we aren't going to let these guys finish their laps. They've got to get across the line before the timer hits 0. It's going to be very close for Sam Lehman here. Does indeed get across the line with a moment to spare, and there is the hard cut that I was so eloquently and promptly reminded of. And what did that do for Sam Lehman? Unfortunately, that looks to not have improved him all that much. It's quite a close field here across the Pro and Am classes for the most part, David. So let's walk through the grid now before they set out on their full formation lap here at Road America. Lachlan Capel has that pole position with Jeff Connell, championship leader, alongside him tonight. And then barely behind the two of them, it's Jack Whittis P3 with Dennis Gaderick alongside there. And just having a look at those times, it is absolutely nothing in it between the top 4. Then the gap starts to open up a tiny bit as we look back to Joshua Fitt there in P5, John Merritt alongside him in P number 6. Then back to Daniel Cheney and Brandon Eleventh. Oh my goodness me, 7 1,000ths of a second between those two guys on row 4. And then back to our first AM class driver with Matthew Johnson cracking the top 10 outright. And he starts alongside Jordan Peter for P10. And then the next of our amateur drivers is Moz Moroz out of 11th, and Adam Funslow rounds out our first 6 rows. And it's a little bit of a quiet night here, it would seem, in the Pro-Am, David.
Yeah, I mean, heading towards Easter long weekend, maybe they're all on their way to Bathurst. Who knows? But it's 5 manufacturers for your top 5, which of course is always interesting to see. Give us some visual diversity as it rolls into the race shortly. Calix Poon, Shai Potts, Nick Wood, Liam Caplice, Graham Smith, and Daniel Webster for those rows, and still a good diversity of the manufacturers here in Pro-Am. Further into the grid, Christopher Henn, Daniel Hill, Chu Kang, Richard Brookfield, Sam Lehman, Luke Fitt, and then just 2 more. Lucky us, Damien Seeger and Nick Buxton. Everyone here in Pro-Am with a qualifying time. They had that hard cut to the end of their session, but it was a 15-minute session up until that point, so really no excuses for not having a lap, you would hope, in the Pro-Am division.
Indeed, you would think. A reminder of the AusPASS rolling balance of performance. Those are engine power values, and you can see there the Porsche and the BMW taking small penalties this week, and the McLaren getting a bit of its power back. So that'll be very interesting to see. What can Jeff Connell do with a bit more engine power to his name after, surprisingly, what was a poor round for the McLaren when it comes to the BOP calculations or 2 weeks ago now, thanks to the break that we had. So that Road America, pardon me, it should have been the Watkins Glen round, but maybe they should have been the Watkins Glen. That was the last round we saw these GT3 cars out on track. But my brain seems to be a bit surprised. I'll have to go look at the BOP charts again. And yes, indeed, it will have gone off of the Watkins Glen results, and that makes a lot of sense, because unfortunately, back those 3 weeks ago, we saw Glenn Boyd and Jack Boyd, who were both in McLarens, going off the BOP sheet. They were the next, apparently, 2 best performers, and unfortunately, they scored a total of 0 points, David. So, with the way it's the top 3 drivers and their results are averaged out to give you a car point score, means that despite the fact that Jeff Connell came home in 3rd place in Pro-Am, it saw his car count as officially being the second lowest performing car that week at Watkins. So
that makes it a balance of participation then as well, because there can be some benefits to being a strong performer in an underrepresented car.
It does certainly add a little bit of an element to that, yes. The fact that, and looking at the numbers, it wasn't so much that, you should like Glenn Boyd and Jack Boyd, both very capable drivers in their own right, just coming slightly undone at Watkins Glen. But yeah, simple as a switch, they didn't finish that race there, and they both had to then, they retired their cars. They get a 0 next to their names, but it goes on the chart for the purposes of the BOP. So it does alter things somewhat, given that, well, Jeff Connell's been up the front most of this season, and he's just been given a bit of a gift back this week as it stands. So you would hope for, well, in fact, once again, he's actually the only car here in the Pro-Am with a McLaren. So we are missing guys like Jack Boyd and Glenn Boyd, as that's Jay messing with the cameras, giving me a mild panic attack, thinking someone had just gone for one of the most unusual spins on a formation lap, as it's actually just the onboard.
Don't jinx it, it's still possible.
The onboard with Lachlan Capel. Well, we saw it in Pass 2, unfortunately. But looks like we're all going to get through the kink without any dramas, everyone holding their side of the circuit. Yes, indeed. Well, here's something else to consider, David. We saw drivers in Pass 2 coming in after just 4 flying laps for the most part. We've got a 10-minute sprint race here. I hope these guys are saving fuel and can make it 5 laps on a tank, because we should have a 5-lap race here by time. And, well, that could get interrupted by a splash and dash for this field if they can't fuel safe here. So I was running the numbers earlier, and I completely have forgot about the fact that we had this full formation. So this will spice things up. It's time for the grid to tighten up those gaps, because the safety car's about to pull into the pit lane, David, and get this race underway here.
Finally, a little bit of flames out of that McLaren. Beautiful evening. Getting later into that evening as we race on, you are going to see the headlights for all of our cars, but you might see some fireworks in towards turn 1 shortly.
Well, here we go. 26 cars lined up here for the Oz Pro-Am Sim Series. First of 2 races from Road America as we await the green flag here. It's going to be the number 18 on the left of screen who takes the lead of the race, but here we go. Oh, there it is. Pile up in the middle of the field. 5, 6 cars involved. I was just going to say it's a drag race at turn number 1, and Connell on the outside is actually going to take it there. And Capel slots into P2. Jack Willis holds on to P3. Had Gaderick challenging around the outside of turn 1, so the field immediately splintered. Not expecting that. Coming up the hill like that, someone must have gone early. We'll have to hopefully check that one on the replay, but now this is going to be the fuel game. What can these guys do up front, and how early does Connell jump on the clutch to make this thing last? Lap number 1, no sign of fuel saving down into turn 5, so just trying to establish, then hold that lead, I would dare suggest. But Capel now, I'd almost argue he's now in prime position here, David, to make use of it. That's Daniel Hill having a wobble at the bottom of the shot there out of turn 5, the number 14. Now trying to fend off Chu Kang in the number 36 Ferrari, and Graham Smith trying to make his way through one of the last of the Pro Class cars. And look at the damage there on the number 10 BMW. That front end of his car is all kinds of crumpled. And so here are some of the guys who are now sporting some rather hefty war wounds here, David, as they get this first lap over halfway done.
And remember, Lachlan Capel, the work he did with the fuel at Watkins Glen. So if that's the game that we're going to be playing in race number 1...
Oh dear, who started in P16? That's Liam Caplice. And look at that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All of a sudden, a mix of pros and ams. And in fact, look at that.
Caplice is on board. Did the car in front check up a little bit and he had to move to avoid that incident and cause another, or did he just try to preempt it, change lanes too early, and cause a pretty big crash right in the middle of the field as we were coming towards the green?
Yeah, not great at all. And in fact, most importantly, it's put one of our AM class championship contenders, Nick Wood, back to the pit lane. He's opted to tow the car, and well, more or less call his race done. On board now with Caplice in the number 20 Ferrari. So up the hill, waiting for the green flag signal. And he just, it's a lift and a coast from both those cars. The 37 ahead of him belonging to Jai Potts, but just turns it across into the line of traffic directly next to him. I think just unfortunately a case of slightly off awareness. Just, yeah, very... something we have seen before at Road America, both in officials and in league racing. It can happen. But yes.
So a couple of those cars that were damaged work their way to pit lane. Everyone else carries on for this very short opening race that will then set the grid for race number 2 with that top 10 invert. So again, that battle around 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th is going to be pretty hotly contested towards the back end of this one, especially if you're an AM competitor who can sneak into the top 10. Matthew Johnson inside the top 10 is the only AM competitor there right now. Moz Moraz is in 11th. So one spot for him would be a very big reward.
And that will be important indeed in terms of setting up that second race. It's been something we've kept an eye on for the most part. And indeed, yeah, the number 11 of Matthew Johnson up 2 spots off the race start. He was already in a pretty good position. In fact, if he'd actually stayed back in 9th spot, he would have put himself on the front row for that second race. But I think in saying that, taking a slightly better finish here in race 1, that's not too shabby either, as he tries to pursue Joshua Fitt up ahead in the 59 Audi, but he's got Brandon Levin, Jordan Peter, and Daniel Cheney all behind. Porsche, actually it's a BMW Porsche double pairing there almost. In fact, very evenly lined up. So we saw the BMW struggle in pass 2 for straight line speed and defending. So down the straight we go, on board with Brandon Levin in the number 99. Thinks about the inside at turn 1, David, but too far back to make anything work. Tucks back in line. Try and set that up perhaps somewhere else later on in the lap. And it's just ahead. John Merritt and Dennis Gaderick line astern for Pulse tuning in there. Mercedes AMG cars. Joshua Fitt in behind for now, but he's starting to move around a little bit. Wonder if he's got a move he wants to make on the cards.
I reckon the fuel game is on with how many drivers we see just running this single file running for the first half of this race here, and teammates in formation as well.
Yeah, that would be the smart play, given that I think it's going to be a little bit marginal. Meanwhile, though, there at turn 5, Jordan Peter, a little bit average through the corner, opens the door. Daniel Cheney up the inside. There's contact between the two. Oh, I think that might have been a case of another car turning down. Watch the reverse and the rejoin there, Jordan. Car's width just left, I say there, and get that car going once again.
The hill there, you can't sight the apex until you're on it. You're going uphill. The track crests underneath the bridge right before that turn. So for the driver on the inside, trying to make sure they're all the way to the inside, and the driver around the outside trying, presumably, you're not trying to get hit, you're not trying to squeeze too much. But both of them can't really see the apex until they're on it. They've got to be singing from the same book on that one. And visibility is even tougher when you're trying to race side by side.
Yep, indeed. Well, back here at the front of the field, having a so we've got live pictures on the left. Here's the replay of what happened. You watch here, the BMW there of, pardon me, where is he? Jordan Peter there, just here, wide at turn 5. Allows Cheney a chance up the inside at turn 6 and over the crest there. I think really it's more of a case of Peter maybe a little bit too tight there through the corner back to the live pitch though, because here's the top 3. And how about a stat that really explains the pace management from these guys here? Lachlan Capel in P2 in particular. So they both set their fastest laps the previous on lap number 2, not the previous lap they just did. But Jeff Connell on the race lead. His lap 2 was a 2:03.476. Lachlan Capel behind, lap number 2, 2:03.473. Meanwhile, sticking here with the onboard from Capel there, thought about possibly making a late dive there into turn 5. David, nothing coming of it though. As back in the field here, number 32.
And I think your point, both of them have backed that pace off a bit. That curb on the exit of turn 5 nearly claiming another victim. No grip out there on that.
Oh, up the hill side
Leaning
by
on each
side.
other.
That's Daniel Hill and Chu Kang going at it still as these guys are fighting over 14th place. Hill able to hang on to the spot for now. And, but looks like he's under pressure a couple of times there on the exit of turn 5 up to turn 6. So just maybe out-braking himself into turn 5, I would wonder, because that is certainly a prime spot to compromise your lap speed. Let's go back to the front 3 here. And Jack Wittes just shadowing them, but a little bit more of a gap between Wittes and Capel than there is between Connell and Capel. So down to the can of the corner should be indeed it will be the penultimate time, because there's the clock. And, well, do these guys have the fuel to make it a 5th lap? We saw that the Porsches in Pass 2 could do it. Can the McLaren and the Ferrari follow here towards the end of this race? And indeed, yet there is no sign of anyone peeling off. They're going to the end of this race. White flag is going to be in the air here as they come up the hill. And just see there.
Wittes has been very smart this whole time. He's been there right with them all race long.
Yeah, he has. But he's been keeping that half-second gap there. And I think just giving himself a window there to roll into that a little bit under brakes, maximize some fuel saving potentially. But it's on now. We've got a 3-way fight for the race win here for the first of our 2 at Road America. Jeff Connell holds the hot seat here, David, but Capel had the slightly faster time in qualifying, and Wittes, definitely don't count him out. It's been a rough couple of weeks for that 898, but once again showing that with good race strategy and a clean track for him, he is certainly right back into it this week.
This is where Capel faked a little bit of a move a lap ago, and he's not quite close enough this time, but Connell might have outbraked himself a little bit, and behind them for 4th place is a gigantic train as well, all the way down to that critical 10th place. It's going to get pole position for race number 2 shortly.
Yeah, Chewy, P9, back of that train. Adam Funzo's a little bit alone in P10. He's got a little bit of a gap behind, so we'll keep an eye on that for the time being, but meanwhile, our focus, David, is of course here with our top 3. Nothing much in it. Basically 0.4 of a second, give or take, between this lot as they make their way around the carousel. Wittes is not quite there on the back of Capel, so here we go. Down to can of the corner for the final time. Does the move come to the inside? Connell defends, so he's going to force the 18 around the long way, but later on the brakes is Connell. Does he have that car pulled up? Capel's going to contest for turn 13. There we go, up the hill, side by side through 13 and 13A. He's going to get the nose ahead, just cover that off for the time being, and into the final turn here. Everyone nails the apex, so they're going to finish the lap the way they started it, but there is nothing in it across the line. Well done to all 3 of these guys, though. Clean, hard racing, but it's going to be another race win. That McLaren of Jeff Connell. Lachlan Capel, though, I think he can be relatively happy with that P2, just not quite able to execute. And there is your reverse grid pole sitter. Adam Funzo holds on to that 10th place ahead of Christopher Henn.
Only just a handful of cars here really dropping pace on the last lap into the 205s, into the 206. And is that Luke Fit out of fuel?
I suspect that is, because
leaders managed it. I think managed their pace like an 800-meter race, just pacing up to that final lap. But a few of the drivers a bit further back in the field, well, not quite in the same straights as Luke Fit. But a few of them definitely, instead of dropping half a second per lap every lap all the way through, ended up sort of dropping 4 or 5 seconds on the final lap, trying to conserve their fuel to make it to that checkered flag.
Yeah, and unfortunately, that number 151 has ground to a halt on the inside of turn 14, so he will not make the final lap of the race, to add insult to injury for him. But we'll have to check in on that one later, because here are our results from race number 1, David. And yeah, 2/10, that's all there was in it. Looked pretty close there, and half a second covering your top 3. But it's Jeff Connell from Lachlan Capel and Jack Widders to round out race number 1 there. Dennis Gaderick, a little bit on his own there for P4. John Merritt having to back off there, it would seem, to hold on to his spot for P5. And Joshua Fitt, just half a second back there in P number 6. Our lead AM driver tonight there, Matthew Johnson, brings it home in 7th place and really inserts himself into a solid position here for the main race here tonight. He's got Brandon Levin behind him, Daniel Cheney in P9, and then once again, Adam Funslow P10. But that crucial pole position for race number 2 coming up here in a couple of minutes' time, David.
Yep, take that top 10 and invert them for another go at the strategy game and racing here at Road America. 11th was Christopher Henn, Calix Boone. Moz Moroz, still good points in his division there, in 13th overall, but would have been 2nd in AM, and right with a few of the other drivers he scored with there as well, Chu Kang, Sam Lehman, Daniel Hill. Then Jordan Peter, Richard Brookfield, Graham Smith, and Nick Buxton is the top 20. Just a couple more cars they are. Liam Caplice, Jai Potts, and Daniel Webster on the lead lap. Luke Fitt gets scored in 25th, a lap down, having taken the tow truck on the final lap. And Nick Wood a lap down. Damien Seager 4 down.
Yeah, unfortunately, a couple of drivers not able to stay on the lead lap there, but well, after that opening lap chaos, not all that surprising really that some drivers had a bit of a hard time there. And indeed, you're just saying there, as you're looking through those 11th through 20th results, Moss Moroz was the second placed AM class driver tonight there in that first race, David, but back in 13th outright. Actually slipped back a couple of spots compared to where he started. Meanwhile, Matthew Johnson up ahead actually improved. So that will mean there's a pretty healthy gap between Johnson and the rest of the AM class field. So looks like he's put himself in prime position to claim the round win for the class and do so fairly comfortably there. But 40-minute race, 2 pit stops coming up, I believe. I'll have to wait and see what they do here tonight. So certainly quite a lot to still to play for, and quite a lot that could change for these drivers. We could have another one of those moments there on the front stretch. And well, what we'll do is we're in the middle of warm-up. We'll take a quick break here, and then we'll get back for the main race in just a couple of moments' time with you here on SimSpeed TV. Welcome back to SimSpeed TV. Hope you've been able to hang with us here for this short break, but we're back for the second and final race of the simrigs.com Oz Pro-Am Sim Series from Road America. My name is Ernie Yeaman, David Haynes alongside me in the commentary box, and Jay Kennedy on production once again. Well, David, we're gritting up for our second race. 40 minutes will be on the clock for this one here, and the reverse top 10, as we said, in effect for this one here. So Adam Funzo gets that pole position for this second race there on the left side of your screen. But he's got Daniel Cheney alongside him on the front row tonight in that 4x4 Porsche 911 GT3R. Brandon Levin, we're starting out of third place. And then our first of the AM drivers and the only AM driver well within inside the top 10 is Matthew Johnson, after a solid race one for him in the number 11 machine. Surrounded by a sea of pros, Joshua Fitt starting out of P5 as John Merritt alongside in P6, and then it's Dennis Gaderick alongside Jack Wittes for 7th and 8th. Lachlan Capel and Jeff Connell running out of top 10. Then Christopher Hen, and Calix Poon rounding out the first 6 rows. And then we finally get to the next of our AM drivers here, David, rounding out rows 7 and 8.
Yep. So Matthew Johnson with a bit of cars and a bit of space between himself and his direct rivals in class, with Moz Moros, Chukang, Sam Lehman, Daniel Hill forming row 7 and row 8. We've seen that the starts can be a little treacherous here at Road America, so I would want to be a little further up the front. It's a good advantage to have. Jordan Peter and Richard Brookfield make up row number 9 before some of the maybe slightly more hard luck stories of race number 1. Graham Smith, Nick Buxton, Liam Caplice, Jai Potts, Daniel Webster, and Luke Fitt. And then it's Nick Wood and Damien Seeger for row 13. 26 cars total for this race, and I do think we've got all of them, or most of them, on this formation lap. What's that little bit of a gap there that's between the two groups as they come underneath the bridge?
Yes, interesting to see there. A small grouping has indeed formed. It looks like it's around that top 10-ish area. In fact, we've got ourselves a bit of a 2 to 3 wide action as we see drivers opting to get aggressive with the fuel saving right from the off here with this full formation lap. But I can actually tell you, yes, indeed, you were right in saying most have made it out onto track, because Liam Caplice, unfortunately, I'd arguably say the driver who kick-started the chaos in race number 1, has not taken to the grid here for race 2. He is still in the server, but I think maybe just opting to play the self-penalising game, and also just the long game here, and go for the pit lane start.
You start with more fuel if you do a pit lane start.
I mean, that is true. Maybe this is indeed the Ultra Strats coming out.
8-dimensional chess.
Indeed, getting extra meta indeed around here. Given the fuel restrictions, if you haven't heard it yet, 20 litres starting fuel for all of these cars, thanks to the fixed setup provided by the series. And then a fuel tank capacity tonight of 37%, which works out to between 37.5 litres for the McLaren and the Ferrari in particular, up to 38.1 litres for the rest of them. So we should see about 5 laps maybe out of these guys up front with the fuel saving here in the opening stint, and then they should be able to get 10 laps to a tank thanks to a fuel burn of between 3.7 and 3.8 litres per lap going full tilt. I wouldn't be surprised if we see some of these guys saving a bit of fuel there too. It's going to be a 2-stop race here. 40 minutes on the clock. We should see 19 laps of racing as a result. And, well, 5 plus 10 equals 15. So even if you stretch the second stint out to 11, that still needs a good 3 laps of fuel to splash it home to the end here, David. So
can I get in a time machine and go back to the start of race number 1? Because I think starting from the pit lane would have been a real nifty strategy there. You would have avoided the pile-up and been able to go flat chat for all 5 laps.
Well, it certainly would have been a very meta move. And, well, I guess you can say we coined it here first. We'll have to wonder about it another time. Well, time to get this grid formed up. So here they go, moving into position now, and waiting on the green flag from iRacing. as are the series rules. So up the hill they come. A little bit of space there still given. Green flag is holding and waiting as we get ready for race number 2, the Oz Pro-Am Sim Series. I got my mouths completely messed up, but there we go. We're underway here, and we're 3 wide already, David, up against the fence of the pit lane. But settling ourselves in mostly. Jack Wittes, though, has got himself up along the outside of the Pulse Tuning Mercs. Down in the turn 1 we go. Oh, 2.5, 3 wide. Oh, there's the trouble at turn 1. The AM class guys have gotten together. Duke Kang, Sam Lehman, and Daniel Hill, unfortunately, have all gotten themselves entangled. Richard Brookfield also caught up in all of that too. But they make their way through turn 3 and on the way down to turn 5. Now the rest of the field, mostly 2 wide, but trying to also sort out single file, I do think. Not a lot of movement so far, although Daniel Cheney up there has lost P2 and he's now got P3 under threat from our lone amateur car in the top 10 here, David.
And Jack Wittes was super gutsy trying to go 3 wide around the outside of turn number 1. Didn't work, but he's already picked off 1 spot. He's right back in it here trying to figure out how am I going to get around these guys who are 2 wide in front of me. Either way I go, my path is blocked flat out through the kink here is not the fastest way.
Here we go. Wittes is on the outside again, this time into turn 8. David, he's trying. Oh, Cable's gone too deep in turn 8. And he sent himself to the gravel. Oh, no. Trouble for our qualifying pole sitter. Now has to slot in amongst the AM group here as they make their way around the carousel. Oh, dropped 9 spots now off of his starting spot. And, well, with Jeff Connell up to 8th place, he was on the bumper of Connell there, so he would have been, well, it's basically lost 10 spots there for Cable. It's a bit of a disaster for him as they make their way down to Canada Corner here. Wittes again on the outside, this time for Canada Corner. So he goes left, he goes right, but he seems to put himself in the wrong spot to make a move stick. But maybe just trying to size things up here. Well, actually not really. He's been trying to make a move wherever feasible, but he seems to be in the wrong spot where it needs to be. Off the final corner we come there. That was a bit of a rough run from the 59. Joshua Fitt, we're right on board with him now. Here comes Wittes in the 898 Ferrari. So down the front stretch we go. Fitt semi-defensive, but the inside is left open, David. That should be a slam dunk pass for Wittes there. And up towards P5. And indeed, whilst we've been worrying about the battle here for P5, new race leader Brandon Levin gets his 99 for Porsche up ahead of Adam Funzel here. So that Porsche has switched on nicely at the start, but slow off of turn 3. We're going to take a quick look at the replay of, I presume, the change position. Indeed, yes. So there it is. In fact, all the way back last lap. Heading down to turn 5. No, we are live, pardon me. Oh, no. Now we're seeing the replay. Apologies there, folks. So, bit of confusion. Here's that change for the lead. Levin able to pull out to the inside at turn number 1. Funzo doesn't defend it too hard and able to hang on to the spot for now. But we better go back to live pitches because that P2 is under threat. And that's another shot here at the replay into turn 1. Who gets involved first? Oh, that's Daniel Hill, unfortunately, bumping off the inside of one of the BMWs. Possibly Damien Seeger, I would hesitate at. Maybe Nick Wood. And, well, unfortunately, that's come undone for them. Well, back to live pitches, David. Here they are on the carousel. Still 2 wide. This time it's Daniel Cheney trying to hold on to his spots, but through has gone. Oh, no! Johnson's got Wittes! Our AM class driver in the top 10, David. You're doing so well just up there. All of a sudden, around, and now that car is seriously damaged. He's got to limp it home to the pit lane here, and it does not want to go on a straight line.
That red Roo has been barbecued, and what has happened? He's just pushed wide onto the grass at the exit of the carousel. The car is not rejoined, and that is hip and shoulder into poor Jack Wittes.
Oh, I was just going to say, Wittes had done such a great job in race 1. Looked like a chance to rebound on form because he's had a couple of rough rounds and, well, straight back to the pit lane by virtue of the tow for the 898. And given his performance in the past couple of rounds and track record, I would suspect we see him. I'm not sure if we'll see him back out on track, to be blunt. Here, meanwhile, one of the drivers to opt on an early pit stop here. Jeff Connell, the field whisperer at Sonoma, brings his number 1 McLaren down to the lane early. In fact, pardon me, look at the right side of the car. No, the rear end of the car. So immediately after the melee, oh, Connell having to dodge. Yeah, no wonder he came to the pits. Carbon fiber and steel meet concrete, and concrete wins every time.
Reverse that straight back into the concrete block and therefore brought it in. Is that so early as to hamper his strategy?
It will just mean a longer stop at the end. He will still be able to complete a 2-stop. Well, he will now have to do this race on 2 stops. I was wondering if maybe there's a possibility that he would have gone for a long... Well, made the first stint work nicely for him and then be able to stretch stint number 2. But even then, he should not have been able to make it to the end of the race. So it was almost certainly going to be locked into a 2-stopper. It's now certainly forced his hand, having to come in at the end of lap 2 here. So looking at plus 3 laps of fuel. That's a couple of seconds worth of time here as Joshua Fitt in the number 59 machine there, trying to get past Adam Funslow, but too deep at the brakes and canter of the corner there, David. He's going to have to give that spot up and try again later on. Presumably here into turn 1 is a good option for that Audi as they come onto the front straight once again to end lap number 3.
Just too aggressive there at Canada Corner, but it's a good race so far for these 3 because, okay, Brandon Levin got past and is getting away, but behind them it's all chaos, and they've still got plenty of time in their own little world here, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. It's time for Fitt. Is that better in turn 1? I think it is. Which is bizarre because we've seen the Audis, I think, struggling for straight line pace so far, and he made that look pretty breezy.
It just says a lot about the strength of the slipstream around this track in particular. And indeed, as more cars come onto the lane, Nick Buxton, Sam Lehman, Daniel Hill, and Luke Fitt have all brought their cars down. I regret to inform that indeed Jack Wittes has opted to end his night there and then. So we will not be seeing the 898 back out on track, not the way he would have wanted race 2 to go. Unfortunately, dealt a cruel hand of the dice there. The way that car spun in the hands of Matthew Johnson, who, speaking of which, after such a great race 1 result, is still circulating and is still on the lead lap, but he's very much isolated and on his own, and unfortunately pushing a bit hard into the canter of the corner by himself. Stay here, though, with this fight for 4th. Pardon me, so it's the fight for 2nd, but Joshua Fitt looks to be checking out, so Adam Funslow's pace, I think, definitely a bit of the determining factor. What has Daniel Cheney got for Funslow on this lap? I dare wonder. Through the kink they come. All looking fairly calm and controlled. How much fuel saving are we going to get out of the 444? Big fuel save, and yeah, no surprises there to make sure this car gets to the end of lap 5. As you can see, the pulse tuning duo there of Dennis Gadarick and John Merritt. Although it is John Merritt, pardon me, leading that train. With Gadarick in behind, those 2 guys certainly doing their best to work together here as teammates you'd expect would do so. But never mind that, they're into the pit lane here at the end of lap number 4. So never mind the fuel save. They're going to go for all-out speed here and stick together as Joshua Fitt also brings his car down to the lane. There's a whole pack of cars making it a 4-lapper opening stint here, David.
Yeah, so no save whatsoever from everyone that you see on the lane right now. Some Lamborghinis back there as well. So that is a big chunk of the field. So it's interesting to see who keeps going. No surprises that Capel is one of them. Not a great start, but then an opportunity like this for Capel to change the strategy up a little bit, and a top 10 is still on the cards. Especially, think that point situation. Unfortunate early pit stop for Jeff Connell. Ross Rizzo seemingly not present.
Oh!
Drama at pit exit.
Oh, what's happened there to one of the Pulse tuning cars? Yeah. Oh, who is it?
Merritt.
Oh, John Merritt. What has happened to the 64? Oh my goodness me. I was thinking pit exit. That's not going to be that much of a problem spot, but count me wrong apparently. So time to have a look at it on the VRS replay here. So out of the box they come. Teammates line astern. Merritt was ahead of Gaddick. Oh, look at the wall. Oh no. John Merritt just making sure he didn't trip his teammate up. Has just gone and done himself a bit of mischief there. And put himself in the fence on the pit exit. So back to live pictures, David. And
Just at pit lane speed limit, gone and fenced himself.
Yeah, it's a rare one indeed. We're back with live pictures, and look who's come back up towards the mid pack of the pro class here. But he's currently running. 10th outright, but third of the cars on track that have pitted. Now he will have a bit of ground. He's got a lot of ground to make up if he wants to still be near the front of the field once those guys come into the lane. As Brandon Levin leads the rest of the top 8 all into the lane. Now, interestingly, I was going to say our lead AM driver could have been Liam Caplice, but he's come into the lane now for a second time, despite coming in. Okay, no, because he started in the pit lane. It's counting this as another lap for him. Or another pit in, pardon me.
All right, so he's made it 5 laps after the pit lane start, so that's a successful start to the chess move.
Negative. Oh, Caplice caught up in incident at the end of lap 1, actually with damage. He's had to come to the pits and get repairs. But he stopped and he took fuel. He's come back into the pits.
On my timing.
He's come back into the pits again for more fuel. So, interesting strategy play there from the number 20 car in the AM class, because I thought for a second maybe he was on for the miracle climb from pit lane to contest for the AM class lead now that we've lost Matthew Johnson effectively from that fight, unfortunately. It's now in the hands of the 767 of Mos Moroz, but we'll worry about that in a second. Here's Dennis Gaddick trying to get past Daniel Cheney under brakes at turn 5, David. And indeed, he's got the job done, and immediately Lachlan Capel was trying to hunt down a chance to get through. Doors open at turn 6. Cheney gives the space, and Cheney in the dirt on the exit of turn 6 there, David. Allows Capel around the outside, and
Capel didn't even want to make that move, and then the door was given to him, and then Cheney runs off the track, and that has a compounding effect in a battle pack like this.
Yeah, it does indeed. In fact, without Cheney, he's lost another spot there. Now to Jordan Peter in the 49 BMW. So, once again, small mistake. Compounding, as you said, indeed, into more positions and time lost. So, Cheney, it's been a bit of a rough one for him. But,
it started pretty well.
Yeah, all things considered, though, doing a fair sight better than Adam Funslow, who unfortunately has flipped well outside the top 10. He's 18th outright on circuits, so I'm trying to wonder when I seem to have missed something happen to Funslow. Let's have a look at his lap time.
I reckon Funslow's probably run out of fuel on pit entry because he's got a standard stop time but a very long pit lane transit time.
Yep, you are very right about that, David.
And ran 5 laps on that first stint. So I just put 2 and 2 together, and I think I've got 4.
Yep. And because he had pole position, actually, no, the pit boxes are set by qualifying, or they're going to be set by qualifying.
Pit boxes will be by grid order.
Well, they will be. Oh, yikes! Yeah, he's
for this race.
Yep. So his car had to crawl all the way up the hill in pit lane, clutch coasting into his pit box at the front of the lane. So, yeah, slight miscalculation there from Funslow on the fuel burn. And that's why his race was quite a bit more painful. And now they've completed their in-lap and out-lap. The numbers don't lie, but back up to that fight there. Daniel Cheney, Jordan Peter, down to turn 5. Oh, Peter gives a touch. In fact, look at that. It's destabilized the car. The tiniest of taps between Cheney and Peter. And I thought for a second it was a bit cheeky from Jordan there in the BMW, almost running Cheney off out of road there on the entry to turn 5. And all it's done is destabilise the rear just enough that on the entry there, can't hold the car, and it loops itself through the middle of the corner there, David.
Yeah, it was like a 2-second delay on the contact and the weight shift. It's possible it distracted him as he tried to transition the car from cornering to opening up the throttle there as well.
Yes, indeed. Well,
Fit's chasing for this race lead, I think.
oh yeah, he is.
So
Currently
good fuel
got
economy
the-
from the opening stint from Brandon Levin, and some good moves there to get through the race lead. Fit stopped after 4 laps, and I don't think is necessarily thinking that same kind of strategy. So it's push lap, push lap, push lap for Fit at the moment. Does Levin react to that or stay with the strategy that he clearly imagined opening this race with?
Well, he's got +1 lap on the number 59 Audi. If he can make it +2 laps in this next fuel tank run, well, 2 laps of fuel, that's about just under 8 litres required. That's worth about 2.5 seconds stationary. So, if he can stay within, if he can keep Fit behind, which would be ideal, or perhaps at least stay in touch with Fit if he does get past here in the next little bit, because indeed Fit is definitely hunting down that that lead. 2:05.0 from Levin in the lead of the race versus a 2:04.1. Still, fastest lap goes to Lachlan Capel, who we just saw as part of that fight for 3rd place. Jeff Connell leads it. Dennis Gaderick in the middle. Capel there up to 5th place after the recovery drive from them. They've got a lot of ground to try and make up. 7 seconds to the race lead, but at a 2:03.8, Capel certainly has got that right foot buried to the floor whenever he can, but tucked behind Dennis Gaderick here, David, that might just slow him down here for the next lap or so, unless he opts to now switch it up and go to a fuel save strategy for a little while here. We'll have to wait and see.
Good battles all around, even after we've had the first round of pit stops, because it's 2 together for the lead, it's 3 together there for 3rd, and everywhere you look, it's 3 or 4 cars together. Loneliest man inside the top 15, I think, might be Daniel Webster, who has to look a whole 1.5 up the road to see the next car. So, yeah, when it comes to this second round of pit stops, a couple seconds one way or another is going to be super critical.
Yeah, there we just saw Joshua Fit having a think about the race lead, but not able to make it work at Canada corner. Meanwhile, Lachlan Capel's just made P4 work for him on Dennis Gaderick there, so there's a change of position in that next train there. It's actually allowed Jeff Connell to get away, so I think no wonder Capel, though, has decided to get on with it, because I think he believes his best shot here is to get onto the bumper again of Connell and make that move stick. But here's to the race lead, as we see replay on your right side, live pitches on your left, and indeed, yeah, straight up the inside for Capel. Nothing to worry about there at Canada corner, but here comes that move for the race lead, and Brandon Levin does not even bother defending that one there at all. He's going to tuck back in, and that definitely suggests to me his mind is on the long game here and to save fuel. We'll see now, what can he do down the straights? That Porsche has had a bit of engine power removed due to the rolling balance of performance, but now he's in the slipstream. Maybe that can go to good work. There's a couple of drivers there wide at turn 1, David, and unfortunately down at Canada corner, troubles for the 24 Porsche of Nick Buxton.
I was worried that was Brandon Levin for a second, or was there a black Porsche off the road? But I always felt like a bit of a replay, even though it was live here for Joshua Fit. Very ambitious and not doing a whole lot in Canada corner, but a very clean move again into turn number 1 and maybe starting to get away. You got to remember, at this point, Levin is carrying a lap more fuel, and in the battle behind them, which is bearing down on them pretty quickly at the pace Jeff Connell and Lachlan Capel are doing, Capel's carrying 3 more laps of fuel than Connell there. So in both of these battles, okay, it looks like he's getting away in the lead. Connell looks like he might be dropping Lachlan Capel here. We'll get to that next round of pit stops, and the fuel drop difference should close both of them back up.
It should see Connell drop behind Capel and maybe even behind Gaderick as well, if Gaderick there in the 190 Mercedes can hold position with these 2 guys ahead now. I mean, yeah, now Joshua Fit, yeah, he's got that 1 lap fuel deficit to Brandon Levin. I do think, yeah, it's in Levin's best interests if he can possibly make that a 2 lap deficit by staying with Fit and getting a bit of bonus fuel saving out of it. But yeah, put to the floor now for Jeff Connell. Gap to the race lead from him is to the tune of 5.4 seconds. So just, yeah, try and close the gap down however he can. And presumably there is not going to be much fuel saving out of his car. 2:03.9, his best lap. last lap around, 204.0. So try and keep those margins tight, and gains at almost a tenth on the race lead, or about half a tenth, sorry, on the race lead. So that's not going to help his case all that much. And 11, actually, I think this is more of a case. 11 is just does not have the pace to go with the race leader here. Gaps up to 1.2 seconds as we approach this straightaway between turns 3 and 5. And yeah, that Audi is hooked up pretty nicely in the hands of Fit as they make their way down to turns 5 and 6 as we focus now on Lock and Cable for a bit, David. Fastest man on track last time around in the 203.89 bracket. The only driver, I should add, to be in the 203s last time around.
Would you describe him as a capable pair of hands?
Oh, in the bin with that one, Haynes. Yes.
It doesn't sound like I'm making a joke. It just sounds like I've got a horrible speech impediment.
Oh, that's even worse. You're making it so, jeez. Right, well, we're going to ignore that for now because, yeah, that one doesn't deserve any more attention.
What about the man battles?
What does deserve some attention is actually the battle for top 10 outright. And it's a mix of the top 10 are all currently occupied by pro drivers after Matthew Johnson's unfortunate accident. It's now up to Mosman Rolls to be the next driver to try and crack into the top 10 and represent the AM class up there. We're currently sitting 11th outright, and indeed, yeah,
I like this as a place for Moz Moros, slipstreaming off a pro class Jordan Peter, trying to put just a little bit of time between himself as the AM leader, Moros, and then Nick Wood and Jai Potts, who aren't too far behind. So,
yeah, they all came in on lap 4, so the fuel strategy should be the same between the two of them, you would think. Unless one of these guys opted... No, they all came in, they all filled up doing exactly the same thing. So, yes, this is very much a game of same. And meanwhile, into the pit lane, Liam Caplice, for what is apparently the third time, what is up with the 20 Ferrari, coming in to try and make an early gamble, possibly? Yeah, car straight.
Might see the window to get home open.
It should have opened, yes. We should only have another 9 laps in this race. So the window has effectively opened to bring it in and make it home. But the only problem with it is it's such a draft-heavy track here, David, that to come in off sequence like this is, well, it seems like it's quite a risky compromise to make because you're just going to lose straight line speed from not having anyone to slipstream off of.
Yeah, interesting, but it does suggest he's probably the only driver who stopped and gets to the end, but I don't see how that benefits you any between now and when everyone else makes their final stop. Certainly you'd think anyone sort of top 5 at the moment runs as long as they can.
Indeed. We should actually, we'll be curious, do we see Jeff Connell presumably down onto pit lane in the next lap or 2, but we'll worry about that later because we're riding on board. Well, actually, I was just going to say we're riding on board with Christopher, the splitter of Christopher Hen there in the number 60 Porsche, one of our pro class cars, currently running in 8th outright and trying to hunt down Calix Poon in the 509 Lamborghini. That's a little wide from Calix as we ride on board with him now through the final couple of corners. That just might give Christopher bit of a sense that, well, this could be on here. Never mind that, though. Christopher Hen is going to respond to Liam Caplice's pit stop, maybe. Well, pardon me, I don't think it's a response per se, because I don't think he did. But Jordan Peter also comes into the lane, David. So now we've got pro-class drivers bringing their cars down onto the lane and to get their final stops done. And yes, 2 cars here. They might be in a BMW and a Porsche, but very much coming out of the same team outfit there. Unfortunately, I don't have a teams list with me to be able to confirm their team. They add a tiny bit of damage repair.
There's actually not that much benefit to putting all your drivers from the same team in the same manufacturer of car, because what if all of you, go and have a really good weekend, you bring the average of that particular model of car up and you'll all be punished for the next round. So there's actually something to be said for if you want to be a competitive team, spread it across a couple different marks.
It is true, yeah. It's very much an interesting way to, yes, to counter the rolling BOP of the series. That is true, and it certainly would be a very meta-level strategy there, indeed. Curious to see. In fact, there's a third one of our cars, Richard Brookfield, number 33, a Lamborghini for him, as he looks to pressure Sam Lehman in the number 15 Porsche there. So through the carousel they come. Both these drivers... no, Sam Lehman stopped on lap 3, actually. So he actually is a bit shorter on fuel, whereas Brookfield stopped on lap 4 with the majority of the race leaders. Headlights are starting to come on, David. So in Oz Pro-Am tradition, about, well, under halfway to go. But starting to get a bit dark out there. And at the front of the field, Jeff Connell, indeed, after 10 laps, brings his car down onto the lane for his second and final stop of the race.
Capel keeps going in what looked like a battle for at least a podium spot, potentially a win. So there need to be some pretty pushy push laps from Lachlan Capel at the minute as well.
Oh yeah, it's going to be a big ask at this stage, it would seem. He's still got a 5-second gap to Joshua Fitt. Fitt, though, has backed off into the mid-204s. Capel was still hanging around in the high 203s. So that couple of half-tenths every there. Meanwhile, Brookfield up the inside. That's a dive and a half there at turn 1, David, but he's not able to make it stick. Lehman's able to hang it on around the outside and keep the place for now. So it was a good effort from Brookfield there to put it up the inside and not run it wide, but he's going to have to try again another time here as they come off of turn 3. And gaps are holding pretty steady here, but in fact, these two cars both taking a bit of a hit from the BOP. So would think that, yeah, these two cars, the Lamborghini in particular, oh no, wide for Lehman through turn 5. But Brookfield not close enough, David, to make advantage. He thinks about showing the nose at turn 6, but that's all we're going to get for now.
Yeah, again, still expecting Sam Lehman to pit pretty shortly. Connell's made his stop, and it was not that long. So if Capel's going to jump him, it needs to be a pretty snappy, short little stop for Lachlan Capel. He's also doing some pretty good speed right now.
Yeah, he is absolutely flying right now. And after the gap that Joshua Fitt built out front to the race leader of Brand 11, well, saying that last lap in particular, he backed to the race. Joshua Fitt from the race lead brings the car in early. In fact, Brandon 11's going to follow him in as well. So does Capel stay out on track? He opts to stay out without the tow. Now that's going to be interesting indeed. He could have brought the car in now, you'd have thought, and been just fine, but he opts to stay out on track and keeps setting 203.9s. So he's putting his money where his mouth is when it comes to outright lap speed. The rest of the field basically dives on into the pit lane. They don't have to do it just yet. Look at that there on pit entry, though. That was Nick Wood making up a ton of time on Mos Moroz as the front of the AM field, along with a couple of the pros. Well, Graham Smith is the only pro in, actually, apart from Levin and Fitt up from the very front of the field. And, yeah, Moroz, Wood, Potts, Seeger, and Lehman, all from the AM class, have made their way down onto the lane. Joshua Fitt is out 10 seconds stationary. So there's what 2 laps of fuel difference gets you. About 2.5 seconds, 3 seconds stationary in the box. Meanwhile, Brandon Levin, he went longer in the first stint, but he hasn't got, he's either made sure he's fueled it up all right, David, but I now wonder, it's a 3-second delta between Joshua Fitt and Brandon Levin stationary in the box. Has Fitt made sure he's got enough fuel in that car?
Well, it was a little short from Fitt, but not super short. And I think he might have just been a little more aggressive on the pit entry as well. And it's just put that little bit of time between Fitt and Levin. Now, Lachlan Capel's still going. If Connell doesn't get around Levin quickly, that's advantage Lachlan Capel.
Absolutely, yes.
This is what Capel gets from running longer. All clean track for himself. Meanwhile, Connell might have just a little bit of traffic at this phase, right around where it's important around the pit stops.
Yeah, he's just closing now in properly on the rear end of Jeff Connell, and thanks to side-by-side pictures. We can show you both the race leader and this now battle for what is currently 7th on track. So, again, Capel stretching the legs of that Porsche. No fuel in the tank. Well, pardon me, in the tank for him. Dennis Gaderick from behind him will come down the lane. Now, this actually might be another important benchmark. Gaderick from behind Capel. This should see Gaderick fall in behind these guys here. Connell and Loven, that is, in particular. But we now watch as Gaderick brings the 190 Mercedes down onto the lane. Meanwhile, a bit of infighting, it would seem, between Jordan Peter and Christopher Henn here. The number 49 BMW versus the number 60 Porsche. And, well, I'm, indeed, looks like Jay Kennedy has gone and done some research for me. Team ILEC, it's quite simply written on the cars, so hooray for slightly easier identification. There comes Gaderick out of the pit lane, and he's jumped Brandon Levin and Jeff Connell in the process here. So I think, yeah, Levin really not getting that pit stop timing down good. But to your remarks about maybe pit entry being better for Joshua Fitt, I'm not convinced, to be honest, because all the time delta looks to be on the stationary box time compared to the lane transition time, at least on my timing. Does yours say differently there at all, David?
I'd have to look at what their lap time was on specifically the in lap. So this lap just now for Connell, he was 0.3 quicker than Capel was. But that great speed right now from Connell doesn't look like it's going to continue on this lap, as he is now right up behind Levin, has closed the gap. And then there's also Gaderick there, so...
Got to get through these guys.
Lachlan Capel's got all that clean air, and if he has a really quick final pit stop, it'll look good for him.
Yeah, Capel was in a pretty good spot here. A bit of a slightly, to be honest, an off-pace last lap for him compared to what he's been doing so far. Banged out 3 laps in the 203s and then proceeded to do a 204.3, but he's brought it onto the lane. Now better than ever. Look at that Jeff Connell, meanwhile, though. Absolutely flat chat through the kink there, David. And daring to put the left rear in the grass. So, yeah, this is now the question. How long can he afford to stay behind Levin? Because the other thing is, the gap from him up to Joshua Fitt, who was the previous race leader, is back up to 5.5 seconds. He had got that down to around or just under 5 seconds. He's losing time here behind the 99 that, well, if he's committed to this race here, he can't really afford to have.
Stop the Capel, he's rolling already. He'll be right here at exit 2.
He will, but Joshua Fitt's going to get him, I think, down to turn 1. It'll be close, but yeah, Fitt's going to be just ahead into turn 1, and it's a race now for the lead. Fitt's up to speed, but I'm sure Capel can go with him here in the next half a lap or so. Connell finally makes his move on Brandon Levin there, so down to 5th place for the 99, but this is your race for the lead. Just under 7 minutes to go. We're going to have ourselves 4 more laps. Actually, pardon me, maybe 3 more laps of this place. And you can see there, McLaren is through. But Levin is staying with him here, David. If you look there at the right shot on your screen. Down to turn 5 we go. Levin thinks about it. Connell breaks it and cuts it off, though, early. He does not want Levin getting back through for obvious reasons here.
Fault Levin for having a look, but I don't think that was going to happen. You're looking at Fitt versus Capel for the win at the moment, and Gaderick just sits in between here, making it just a little more difficult for Connell to catch either of those two. 3.5 laps left to go. Connell is still nearly 6 seconds away from the lead.
Yeah, I don't think... Jeff Connell's been good this season, and well, he's championship leader for a reason so far, but I don't think he's got the speed to somehow find a second per minute, which equates to 2 seconds per lap, quite simply that, around this place. So, yeah, we're going to have 3 laps on the board this time by, and it very much is, I think, a 2-horse race. It's going to take a mistake from one of these two to suddenly bring anyone else into the party. And you can see a Capel not quite able to close in on Fitt. So I think having to get that car back up to speed a little bit. But he is also suffering a bit from, well, not suffering, but at least he is obviously down on the balance of performance. Again, just a reminder, the Porsche down to 99% engine power due to the performances out of both Lachlan Capel here, along with James Scott in particular, who we are missing from the front of the field tonight. Those two guys helping promote the Porsche to be the best car on results, on average at least, from Watkins Glen 3 weeks back. Meanwhile, new AM class leader, it's Nick Wood, one of our championship contenders in that division. David is up to that 11th spot, which has been for quite some time now the AM class leader position.
So we saw how much on the brakes into pit lane Nick Wood gained, but then I think he also had a 4-second shorter stop than Moroz as well. Jai Potts has had a pretty good stop. So Moroz, I think, has entered the lane as class leader, is now sort of back into third.
Yeah, he is. And it's, well, unfortunately there, Graham Smith getting through and finally ending the reign of 11th place as equal to the AM class leadership. Meanwhile, though, back at the front of the field for outright positioning. And, well, yeah, looks like Lachlan Capel has got that car switched on. Purple Sector 1, Purple Sector 4, which would be from this lap by, if I'm not mistaken, to come through the kink here. That Porsche is ready to go. Joshua Fitt knows he's there, and he's definitely going to send Capel the long way around. Still got 2 and a bit laps to go. Again, Capel looking for the over-under at Canada Corner, but doesn't quite get the over-under that he wants, I think. So he's going to be right in behind, though, up this straightaway. This Porsche is lacking a little bit of engine power, David, but even with an Audi at 100%, slipstream between these two guys should mean surely it's on. And never mind that, Joshua Fitt, unfortunately, has shown a bit of an error there. Although he might be able to, well, he'll tuck back in and he'll have to reset and try again. 2 laps to go here. Still on for the race lead.
And it's, 1v1 mano a mano here for the lead, and Capel will know that there's still quite a bit of time, a little bit of buffer backwards to Dennis Gaderick, who hasn't really been catching them, and then another couple seconds to Jeff Connell, who has the potential to catch them, but is quickly running out of time, as you say, 2 to go. And Fitt's quick, but he seems to just overdrive the car in a situation or two here. We've seen him brake a little too deep into Canada Corner. He's just tagged a little bit of the dirt out the final corner. Capel
closing in a straight
smooth
line.
And assessing the full situation here, I think.
Well, yeah, you said that there, David, and he just pushed it to the absolute limit of what can...
from pavement to pavement and didn't touch the dirt there.
Well,
Bit of hopscotch.
Well, in that case, he's certainly using all of the track. Meanwhile, here's the battle for 10th place in... well, it's in class. It's also out right here. Daniel Webster is under all kinds of attack from Graham Smith. He's able to fend it off for the time being and maybe just get a chance to think about trying to put a move on Calix Poon as they make their way through the hurry downs for their second last time in the race. You can see there, though, our front 2 in AM class, Nick Wood and Jai Potts, they're just in the shot here. And, well, they're more accurate. They're not just in shot. They're there in the battle pack. So, very much one of these 3 Pro Class guys gets it wrong here. And we see our AM guys, good chance to jump into the top 10. Leaders are through Canada Corner, meanwhile. Nothing coming of it. And, yeah, Capel is just stretching his legs here through the cornering sections and the exit here. So, 1 lap to go. If Joshua Fitt can hook up the perfect lap for him, half a chance of it on for that race lead. But meanwhile, here comes Webster to the outside of Calix Poon at Canada. Oh, to the edge of the track. He's got a nose ahead, I think, David. He would go through turn 13. He does. That's a fantastic move from Webster around the outside. And Jordan Peter, sorry, Graham Smith, apologies, yes, gets through as a result. And so does Nick Wood.
Now he's got a car between himself and his other AM competitors there of Jai Potts and Moz Moroz coming towards the white flag for these guys. So great little bit of luck and fortune there for Nick Wood. He's now got to be careful about the guys battling in front of him, though. Keep his eyes on them, and it's closing for the overall lead as well.
Down the 0.2 of a second. It's been a bit of a bad run from Capel, it must have been. So here we go, down to turn 5 for the race lead. Joshua Fitz looking inside, outside. Has to go outside. Capel's given him no option there. So can he make it stick around the outside? The answer is no. He's going to have to tuck back in surely. Yeah, not able to make it work around the outside at turn 5. So set up again for turns... Well, you would think the setup is now for Cannon the corner, but that's a bad run through turn 6 for Fit. Not able to get the power down like Capel was there. Meanwhile, here's that battle. Smith ahead of Webster now. As into turn 5 ago, there's Nick Wood watching, waiting. Jai Potts has gotten through on Calix Poon. So, no spare gap, no car behind to spare. So, we've got our 2 AMP class guys here fighting amongst the pros. But it is all for outright spots, so everything goes here. You don't need to be driving on class divisions. Certainly, you're racing championship-wise on class lines. But, yeah, the glory is here and now. And certainly, a top 10 outright would sound quite nice to either of these amateur class guys. Down to the Cannon of the corner, the leaders go. And, yeah, unfortunately, Joshua Fitt has overdriven that car at turn 6. And, well, Lachlan Capel has decided to put punish to that here in this final lap. Has broken away, it would seem, in spite of the power disadvantage. Through the final corner he comes, the 18 of Capel, using the track limits to perfection there. And up the hill he's going to come. Fuel saving a little bit more than everyone else, and definitely putting to good use. Race win goes to the number 18 of Lachlan Capel here in the second of the Pro-Am races tonight, David.
So what about the AM battlers towards the end here? Nick Wood, I think, will just hold on. Jai Potts not able to get the run he needed out of the final corner.
Drag race to the line, but indeed, yep, 2.5 tenths as they come across. And Nick Wood is going to be able to hang on to that class win tonight. So, good rebound for the 308 championship-wise after, unfortunately, being entangled on lap, well, early on in that first race.
Good drive, good strategy from Gaderick. I mean, we didn't talk about him a whole lot towards the end there, but came out of pit lane in the second stop into a good spot and just held on to that third.
Absolutely, indeed. Our eyes are up the front for the first and second battle and also back outside the top 10. But indeed, let's run through those race results now a bit more in detail. Lachlan Capel taking the race win here tonight in the feature for the Pro-Am ahead of Joshua Fitt there in second. And indeed, perhaps, yes, the quiet underachiever, Dennis Gaderick, able to hang on to third place ahead of Jeff Connell there in the number 1 McLaren. Not quite able to turn around, but given he lost it at the kink, thanks to the earlier drama with Matthew Johnson, that's a pretty good recovery from the number 1 machine to get back up to P4. Brandon Levin started on the front row tonight and unfortunately not able to, started third tonight. Slops back into 5th place at the end of it all with the fast charging guys coming through. Head of Daniel Cheney there in 6th place, not able to close that gap down was the 444, but pretty comfortable finish there for him. Ahead of Jordan Peter in 7th, Christopher Henn in 8th, and Graham Smith in 9th after pipping Daniel Webster there towards the end. 10th place for the number 35 there, David, will have to do.
And across the page, it's the rest of the finishers, including that AM class battle, just 2 tenths in the end. But Nick Wood, great pit stop, good run off that final pit stop to measure the fuel just right, defend his position, and take the class win from Jai Potts. Calix Poon mixing about with them there as well, and Was Moros raced well, raced cleanly, but maybe higher fuel burn, more conservative on the fuel drop at the final stop. Stands on that class podium from Liam Caplice, who started out of the pit lane. Adam Funslow, Sam Lehman, Richard Brookfield, Damien Seeger, and Daniel Hill are the top 20, and a couple more cars finishing on the lead lap. Luke Fitt, Chu Kang, unfortunately, kind of taken out pretty early in this one. We saw the replay, not their fault at all. Matthew Johnson, the last car on the lead lap, might have triggered that one a little bit. 5 laps down, Nick Buxton. 14 laps down, John Merritt. 17 laps down, Jack Widdis.
Well, after those results, it's time to have a chat to a couple of our guys from race number 2. And starting off, who else but the winner of the feature and also pole sitter from back at qualifying. It's number 18 of Lachlan Capel there. Congratulations, Lachlan. Good qualifying pace once again tonight in the Porsche. And able to run with Jeff Connell there, but slot into P2 in the heat race earlier on. And then convert here with an excellent strategy to get the win in the feature as well.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. That was a quite difficult race for me. Well, I put it on pole. Pretty happy about that, although I could have improved by a couple tenths and gotten off track on a 2 or something like that. And first race, I just had the mindset of trying to keep behind, keep behind Connell for most of that, and I went for a couple laps at the end, talking to Jack about it, and I was thinking about it, but I was too far back, and Jack had the pace. Connell had the pace. So yeah, that happened. Race 2, made a little mistake with all the checking up and went off and went back to like 20th, but the big crash that involved, unfortunately, Jack and took him out the race. Unfortunately put him out the race, but I was driving through the field. I think that's the fastest, or at least the most consistent I've ever driven through that field. And then after that, pit stop went well. I used the trick of not putting my pit limiter on and just kind of rolling with it to gain a little bit of extra speed, and I fuel saved behind a couple guys, and then as soon as I could get past Guitaric, I did, and sat with Jeff and got some few fastest laps, and then, fuel strat paid out somehow, probably because I stayed out quite longer than everyone else, which I was surprised no one else tried to go for long as possible. But yeah, I was just happy I got that, and it was quite close at the end, but I think I just had the pace over Josh and came home with the win.
That's a good point to bring up, actually. Yeah, race 2 here for the top, between yourself, Jeff Connell, and Jack Wittes. Definitely a bit of misfortune there early on for all three of you in one way, shape, or another tonight. But indeed, able to drive back through, definitely sealed the deal there, and made the most of it. I think, fuel strategy tonight looks like that Porsche did have a good set of legs on it tonight when it came to economy-wise. Thinking back to the heat race, actually, just curious, given the full lap warm-up, how close were you on fuel at the end of that first one there, and how much saving did you feel like you had to do, and maybe did that perhaps sort of give you consider that idea to consolidate second place rather than really try and attack Jeff for the race win in the heat?
Well, the first race, because it was a rolling start, it was a full lap. I thought it might be the short start layout of Road America, but it wasn't. It was a full lap, and according to my fuel I had, if I continued, I would have had 1.9 left in the tank, but obviously the outlap took some time, so it was all about clutching. I think if I made it to the top of the hill with about bottom of the hill or the finish line with about 19 litres left, I'd be good. And I did fuel save a little bit, but it didn't really affect me. I think I had 1.2 litres over the line, same with I did in the feature race as well. I don't know what Jeff was doing. He might have been fuel saving just because I sat behind him and was able to save a little bit of fuel behind him, and he had all the clean air in front. Yeah, but I wanted to go for a move, but me, Jack, and Jeff all kind of pulled away in our little 3-packs, so I didn't really think about it until late in the race, where I just didn't want to take anyone out because we're all having great fun, great battles around, so I didn't really want to go for something too stupid. But yeah, I had to go, and it wasn't enough, but I managed to get it done for the final round, so happy about that.
Sounds good indeed. Well, 3 rounds to go on the calendar. You're in a good spot championship-wise, and results tonight will help consolidate that. I guess Suzuka up on the calendar next, followed by Laguna Seca, and then off to the Nürburgring Nordschleife. Are any of those tracks in particular of interest, of concern, of indifference, perhaps?
Well, after this week with 4 or 5 Porsches in the top 10, power is going to get shot. Probably looking at 97%. Tonight we're running 99, so it's probably going to be a pretty big hit to the Porsche. So next week Suzuka probably going to struggle quite a bit with that big power deficit, but I'll work on it and see how I go. Unfortunately, no, the Lambos were really here besides maybe Calix Poon, but Ross was gone, a couple other guys were gone. It wasn't a big turnout tonight, but I'll work on it for next week. I don't expect to be up the top just because of the big power deficit, but I'll see how I go. I'm very, very looking forward to the Nordschleife, because after all that 24-hour practice I did last week, and doing an 8:03 in qual for the 24-hour Nürburgring, so I'm very, very excited to try and if the Porsche gets bumped up a little bit. I'm very, very confident around the Nürburgring now, so after all that practice I did, so I'm very much looking forward to the final round, and it might help me championship-wise as well, considering Enduros for this season are very, very up in terms of the points compared to last time, so looking to get it done there. Laguna Seca is just kind of a meh trap for me, but I'll work on it.
Alright then, well, before we let you go, Lachlan, a chance to say thanks to partners, sponsors who helped you get it done tonight.
Yeah, I'd just like to give a big shout out to Pulse Racing team. I know I've made some mistakes in the past, but hopefully getting some wins and that in the future, and trying to get everything up. So Century Batteries, Lismore, AWC, West Performance, as well as that, a big shout out to Sam and Cardo running the league and you guys for putting this on, as well as Computer Technology Corporation for sponsoring me and helping me out throughout my driving journey.
All right there. Thank you very much, Lachlan, and well done tonight. Looking forward to seeing what you can do in the next couple of weeks. So there we go with our race winner, David, and I'll leave it to you to have a chat with our other driver here waiting for a chat, Joshua Fitt, with his second place finish in the feature race there tonight.
Well, congratulations on your result there. Obviously, inverting the grid for the race number 2 gave you a great starting position. I don't think of Road America as a place where passing is especially difficult, but that good starting position, a bit of clean air, I'll let you build the gap and the strategy early.
Yeah, qualifying wasn't my finest. 20 minutes on the track, so probably put myself a bit further back than I'd probably like to have been. But
qualifying was 15 minutes?
I think it was 15 or 20 minutes. I just couldn't seem to get anywhere near where I needed to be and kept making mistakes on each lap. But I think it was 6 in the end, which is still a bloody good result, but a bit frustrating all the same. So good to work my way through the field, I guess, in the feature race there. It was a lot of fun towards the end with Lachlan on the last couple of laps, but couldn't get done, unfortunately.
And so some big moments for some of the big runners too. I mean, Jeff Connell with damage behind you, charging towards the end, and of course a pretty big crash for the mid-pack in race number 1 as well. Once you get clean of an incident like that, do you feel that helps?
Yeah, I took a big breath, I guess. I think it was on the first lap or the second lap where there was a bit of a shunt in front. I think Jack Widders got caught up in it and somebody else, and I just got through without being clipped. So sort of a bit of a breath after that one, put my head down and tried to put together some clean laps, I guess, with some clear air, which sort of paid benefit with the pit stops. And it was interesting to see Lachlan pop out right in front of me just with 3 laps to go. It was made it spicy towards the end.
Yeah, absolutely. How'd the Audi fare today then for fuel tank size, consumption, etc., knowing that no stops for race number 1, but maybe a bit of management required and plenty of pit stops and refueling and fuel numbers for race number 2?
Yeah, I wasn't aware we'd have to fuel save in the first race. I did the first couple laps pretty hard like the guys in front, and then saw some fuel saving going on, so looked down at the screen and saw I was going to be a bit short. So the last, I think, 2 or 3 laps was a bit dicey, and I ran out just as I crossed the finish line. So all in all, worked really well. The second race, it was just pretty much go as hard as you could from the get-go. The fuel numbers weren't really of too much concern, I guess, in that second race, but the Audi performed really well. The first few laps in the first stint, the tyres were good. I think it sort of lost its balance towards the end and started skating around a little bit, which made it a bit difficult, and a few mistakes sort of crept in. But no, it's always got good turn in compared to probably the Porsches, and I enjoyed driving it tonight.
Well, congrats on that. Good solid points, and racing up front all throughout that race number 2.
Thank you very much.
Well, that's going to do us for interviews tonight, David, with Joshua Fitt there in the second place finish. And as we've alluded to earlier on, next week we head to the home of the Japanese Grand Prix. Suzuka International Racing Course is our destination, and it's going to be another one of our sprint rounds as we come into the final 3 rounds of the season. Now that I've actually gotten that number straight for myself here tonight. So, as we sort of foreshadowed there, the BOP possibly tweaking things up a bit. Lamborghini will get some power back. Porsche possibly going to get some power taken away by the looks of things. But, well, I guess it's all up in the air still as to what we're going to see in a week's time. Unless you've got any early thoughts and predictions?
A lot of really quick changes of direction in the early part of the lap with those S's. So if something like Josh Fitt just told us, later on in a run, the car starts to get away from you, the tail a little bit slidey, that'll be interesting to watch around Suzuka next week.
A very good observation indeed. Well, we'll have to leave it there for tonight, folks, but big thanks as always for tuning in to watch the simrigs.com AusPrime Sim Series. with us here at SimSpeed TV. And a big thanks to all of the partners on screen that help make the series possible. To Phoenix Smokers, Computer Technology Corporation, Palmer's Skincare, Chuka Toyota, and Index Designs, and of course Simrix.com as the title partner for this season number 6 of AusPASS. Well, my name is Daniel Yeaman. It's been David Haynes alongside me in the commentary box. Jack Kennedy on production for this one. Thank you all very much for watching, and we hope you've had a good one with this one tonight. Until next time, whether it be the next round of AusPASS or when SimSpeed next goes live, hope to see you then. But until next time, it's bye from us for now.
This is fantastic. This is GT Racing right now.
He's got tracks and he's got rid of the outside of both of them. Maloney!
Oh, he's taking Anderson. Anderson's up top.
Oh my God! Oh, big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled.
Section's very close. These guys I want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go. Oh no! That's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my God.
God, what?